And we are live.
And we'll wait, give people some time to see if we get anybody to jump on here.
Yeah, I'll see when it pops up in my feed as well. There you are. You're in the feed. I'll share it now.
It just showed up on X, so we're good.
Okay.
I'll share it now. It just showed. Okay.
I can push it out to some of the groups.
It just showed.
Push.
Is it on the Act for Missouri live stream?
Yeah, we've got 4 people on. That may be. It's on. I've confirmed it's on everything, so we're good and live now.
Because I just wasn't seeing it there.
I just reposted it. Usually takes a few minutes if it's a live stream. People to let it roll through their screen and recognize that it's going on. I just popped it in on mine as well. Just shared it.
It's nice because you can share it, and then also you can comment on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sharing it to some of the groups. So
Yep. That's the key. Is if you can get it out to all the Republican where there's a group on Facebook.
Yep.
I think that works the best.
Doing it right now.
Yep.
Hello, Cheryl.
I think I found it. Is there music playing on it right now?
No, that's an older one, I think.
Huh. It says tonight, 6:30, Act for Missouri, and
Yeah, when I'm looking at it, it's got all 4 of us up there. So
all right. Maybe it's delayed or something. Yeah, it's not working for me.
No.
What's the
let me send you a text with the link here.
you could do it on could do Facebook too if you like. Different than radio, huh, Rob?
A little different, yeah. A little different.
Hey, Isaiah or Isaac, what was the guy's name the other day?
That's the thing, is I think some of these people that are in love with me are at a they're at a fundraiser for
oh yeah,
on Noel out in Franklin County. So they're all there. It's big for them. They're pushing him hard. I like Sean too, but I'm just saying that's where they're at.
Yeah. You did a good job. Where'd you post that comment? Where'd you post that link, Mike?
I sent it to your text.
Oh, you didn't post it in the text in the comments. Okay. There's like a private chat here on the screen,
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that. Here, I'll put it in there. Somebody might have already put. Oh, that's Rob. Okay.
I know we've got a lot of people on there that know us, so if you can, share the link with your fellow friends and groups. I know I see Cheryl and Tammy.
Share.
Brenda. Yeah.
It's like, do you remember Romper Room, you know?
Yes. Very. It's a team effort, folks. Grassroots. We don't have a high dollar production team.
It's pretty funny. When you put it in my phone, then I have to. Yeah, there we go.
I'm sorry. There it goes into the private chat. I completely forgot we had that.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm going to take it off my phone. There we go. We're not using up all the bandwidth.
Okay, somebody said they can see everybody on Rumble. Okay, great. That's Cleet. Thank you for reporting, Cleet.
We got 18 on Rumble right now. We're just waiting for let everybody get online. So that's what's going on now, folks.
We're also sharing with any groups that you think might be interested in jumping on. I have about 90 for Act for Missouri, so it's going to take a few.
And then where is, I'm trying to find you on X.
X. We should find that.
I'll drop that one in the private chat too.
Okay, I see X Live. My post.
That reminds me.
Okay.
I just dropped our X in there.
Thanks, Brenda, for sharing that with her Patriot group in Perryville. Woo-hoo.
Awesome.
Oh, we see Camden. Who is that? Flagship Patriot, Camden County. You guys have a new county clerk, I think, getting running here. We're going to maybe do some changes. And they're all coming on here. Now, Mike, on the chat, am I seeing? So it looks like, okay, I can see there's some Rumbles, there's some Facebook, so I can see them all.
Yeah.
All right. They're coming out of the woodwork, coming from every direction.
No, we're getting.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, U.S. veteran on X. He's been pretty vocal lately. Come on, he's been fighting hard for us with those amendments. Jump on.
Come on.
Come on. Tell your friends, get off the couch, jump on the live stream. Let's go.
Hey, baby.
It's time to give a little bit to your country. You can do it. Good. I see those admins are, oh no, Jackson County Republicans, you declined my post. Shame, shame, shame. Shame. Whoever's out there, you're Jackson Republican. Let's see, Jackson County Republican group declined this live video feed.
Oh, really?
They did. Oh, really? They did. Declined. Let's see the details. Oh, I might be able to redo it. It says the author must have 3 friends in the group, and I know that I have 3 friends in Jackson. So let me go back. Let me share. Group. Let's go back.
All right. we got a lot. It looks like we got a good variety of counties starting to show up. We've got
All right.
Camden, Wright County, Lincoln County.
Oh, Lincoln. All right, Lincoln.
Clinton
Right.
County.
Oh, look at, yes. Go, guys, go.
All right, let me.
We're going to talk about some county strategies tonight, so it's good to know who's on here. You can network, or we can also, connect and get a better idea.
And tomorrow I'm in Franklin County, so
That's right, Franklin.
this is a preview.
Jackson County approved. Good job, Jackson.
All right.
I just had to do it from my personal account where I had 3 friends.
All right. Well, we're up to 30 folks. It looks like watching now.
Okay. Let's see, Lincoln. Oh, Cheryl's Johnson. How about Clinton? How about Clinton County? Can you send it there? I think I already did, but let me double check. Because that's what I did, is I joined every single group I could find. But I'll just it's a little bit crazy. So let me share it out.
Not bad for someone who doesn't like computers.
Right. You got to learn. All right.
Entrepreneurs.
There, I just sent it to 5 different Clinton groups, Tammy. So let's see. Let's see what we can get going.
Flock St. Charles just put it up.
All right.
All right.
St. Charles is where Kurt Barr is.
Oh,
Bar.
Kurt, we're going to tell a story tonight about Kurt Barr. So if you want to get the story.
I gave a talk there about a year ago, and his son attended. And I think his son came with, a pre-opinion because of his hearing from his father. My sons would be the same. But at the end of the talk, I could tell he was questioning himself. And he hung around afterwards, and because of who he is, I spent a little time with him, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have anything personal against Kurt Barr. I really don't.
Sure.
And I wanted his son to have a chance to discuss things with me, and I'm sure it was an interesting discussion that evening at home.
I bet at the house, right? Woohoo!
I taught at that special school for gifted high IQ kids for about 25 years. And you learn how to deal with young people. And the worst thing you can do with a young person is to tell them what to think. You have to let them make up their own minds. And so you just ask questions and answer their questions, and they'll come to the right conclusion if you give them room. If you try to force it, they'll resist you. And then
what's that saying? They say it's easier to pull a chain than push one.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even pull. I just show them the road. Here's the road. You can go on that rocky road, or you can go on this easy road. Your choice.
We'll have to take some of that advice to try to get some younger kids involved in the political scene.
Yeah, they're tough.
They are tough.
Although in Korea it's been easy.
I know, so amazing. I mean, it is really. I don't know. Maybe we'll be inspired by that, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Part of my day today was working on getting my trip set up to LA.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure when I'm going because I don't want to go till I have data, and until I have my other. You don't attack in a war until your troops are ready.
Right.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe the South Korean youth that are here in the United States will actually be the ones to motivate the other youth. Maybe they'll lead the way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That call that I do with John's Letter to America. Sitting behind him is a young man, and he's a 23-year-old young man in his
suit. He looks so professional sitting there.
Yeah, he's a 23-year-old young man, and he's the one he gave me that hat that says Grok on it. But that means Great Republic of Korea. And he's in college, and he is trying to start an international revival movement. And I'm so proud of him. Sweet. His name isn't Joshua, but it sounds like Joshua. So his English name is Joshua, but it's something like Yoshua or something. Something Korean that sounds like that. Nice kid, really nice kid.
I didn't notice the first couple times I saw the video of the letter from John, but I did notice the last night when you played it to the to the crowd there.
Yeah.
The guy that you're talking about in the back seat, nodding his head and
Yes.
getting animated as he heard him give that letter. So we'll definitely have to try to play that tonight.
We can play that. That'd be fun. I'll put that on my list of things to do. I think it's a very compelling letter.
It's super compelling.
Yeah. And what's important to me about it is I spent 2 weeks with these people and all over the country, and it really encapsulates the way a lot of people think there. And so it's a good, you notice he wasn't just saying, come save us, come save us. He was saying, we want to fight with you, and we need America to be strong. So we want to help you be strong. It was awesome.
Well, and when I saw that there's that agency that's basically we're using
AWeb,
AWeb. I had no idea it even existed.
Yeah.
None. Shock.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So that kind of ties it, because I think there's that. How does the global affect Missouri or little Missouri, right? How does that?
Yeah.
And it's hard to make the connection, right? Because they think, what are we doing? Just trading ballots in the post office here in Missouri?
Right.
We're really.
And isn't it ironic that movie that that clip that I showed for Mike's movie where the connections are coming from South Korea? Guess where they're landing? Right in Missouri.
I know, that was even crazier.
And that's from 2021. I didn't create that recently.
Yeah, so that's
and so it's legit. It's a legitimate concern, and Missourians need to wake up and address it.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, for sure. How are we looking, Mike?
Looks like we've got 34 online right now.
I can see, and it looks like Apeton 68. He said I should add, I'm on the border of the Texas Wright County. Okay, that's our first Texas county, I think. Wright. Who did I just talk to that said they were Wright County? Is that Nadine? I think Nadine's in Wright County.
I don't think that's Nadine's.
I don't think that's her.
No, I don't think that's her county.
I remember when I was doing data for Texas, 254 counties. It's a lot of work.
Whoa.
Well, we have a Texas County, Missouri here.
Oh.
And we've got a Teresa Hamilton. I'm on.
Oh yeah, Teresa Hamilton. She's my Amy in Oregon.
Well, hello. Oh. We got Reeder, St. Louis County. Okay, we're seeing you. This is great.
I guess really it's Teresa, for your benefit. Mike and Amy are with Act for Missouri, and they're really both doing what you do in Oregon. It's like you and Steve. There's a guy there in Oregon named Steve Ribeiro, and Teresa and Steve are like
work together. Okay. Hi, Teresa. I'm glad you joined us. We may need to talk in the future.
Yes.
So you're just like 2 counties short of having a team in every county in Oregon.
25 out of 36, I think she told me last time.
Out of 36.
That's wow.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, is setting up those teams in the counties, right?
Yes. That's really important.
Yeah. Will you just, Rob looks like he's sharing and sending, and he's going down his list.
You guys hear me? Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, we hear you fine.
There we go.
He's getting it shared.
Get it shared.
Thanks for all of you that tuned in and said you can hear us and see us. That's nice to get that feedback so we know where we're at.
Yeah, I remember
before we start talking and they can't hear anything.
I talked for 30 minutes one time and I didn't realize I was offline.
Oh no. That's great. That's great.
Crystal says you're too quiet.
I saw that.
I know. That's
my eyes are just good enough to see that. Just good enough.
He's not used to hearing that, I bet.
Yes.
Right?
I'm going to pull my picture out so Rob's not hid behind.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Oh, look, the 3 side by side.
That's very interesting.
That is interesting. There we go.
I can tell that Mike is learning StreamYard.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's learning it. He's learning on the fly.
Yes. I use it quite regularly. So I know what he's doing right now. I know the buttons he's clicking and experimenting with. And as you get better, you can actually design custom screens like this. Mike, you can so you can make it any shape you like.
Don't give any ideas. He'll be experimenting. We'll have all sorts of stuff going on shortly. All right. Well, I think we feel like we got enough people that we can get started.
Yeah, you'll have people drift in as they start to see people talking.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody that joined. My name is Amy Castro. I'm with Act for Missouri. Mike's behind the scene running the production, helping us. We've got the comments. We have Robb Carter with the Robb Carter Show joining us. His show's Monday through Friday, 9 to noon on all platforms.
You're getting good at this.
Share and like and share. That's the deal. We got to bring it in.
That's
and
right.
we have the National Advocate for Election Integrity, Dr. Douglas Frank, who's been with us here all week as we have traveled the countrysides and the bumpy roads and the railroad tracks and the churches and the homes. We have been everywhere.
You and Mike were driving me around. We've had good discussions.
Yes, he's been working frantically on our data to give it to us so we have it when he leaves. So
Teresa will understand that because I've done that for Oregon.
Yeah.
And I just finished like 5 minutes before this show. So got all the counties ready.
He's been captured in his hotel room working. So I think tonight the format, you're going to give us a little introduction and some information. It's very open for questions and discussions. So please put it in the comments. We'll get it out there and let's figure this out. How's that sound, Missouri?
I'm in.
I appreciate that, Amy. The other day when I was on Robb's program, somebody even posted in the comments, they said, well, I don't like this guy because he's not against the machines. And I'm like, what? So I like the opportunity to have people commenting. And so please, people do comment because I'm certainly not a machine advocate. I work really closely with Mike Lindell. I don't think we'd be very good friends if I liked the machines. So if you have questions, by all means, please ask and let's engage. And I think that's why we have a less formal format tonight, so that people communicate.
Very casual. Get in there. Yeah. Let's really talk. Let's figure this out.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you, Dr. Frank, what kind of response did you get on the other when you do the presentations? What kind of response are you getting from the people coming to watch it?
That's a great question, and Amy's there to witness. So if you disagree with me, Amy, you can argue. But I would say people are very motivated. I don't think we have any trouble getting teams to form after my talks. I think people realize the urgency, and they're like, okay, sign me up. And I've had a couple of training sessions this week. Normally what happens is I'll do a public presentation and then the next day a training session. We got that backwards yesterday, but we don't usually have trouble getting volunteers after, because once people realize it's real and that they need to engage, who wants to lose your country?
Right. Is it a party issue? I was going to ask you, are you seeing a lot of Republicans show up? Are you seeing Democrats show up? Both? Independents? Because I always get the feeling Republicans, once they won everything, they just didn't think, we talked about it on the show, they just don't think it matters anymore. They thought, okay, well, we won, everything's fine. I'm like, wait a minute, these elections haven't changed a bit. They can steal these whenever they want to.
It's such, we call it the Trump slump, right? Once Trump won, they don't need to do anything. But that's one of the things I think that's been an eye opener. I show the graph when I'm in my presentations of Missouri. People think, oh, everything's good here because we're so MAGA. No, your Republican legislature is not behaving like conservatives. It's a problem. So I always show that graph. Maybe I should bring it up. But the point is, we need to become engaged. People are not engaged, and people need to run for office. People need to be on the school boards. People need to be commissioners. We need to have legislators who actually represent the people. I was looking at the distribution of how do people vote in Missouri. You guys vote nearly everywhere. 2 to 1, 3 to 1 MAGA. You're very MAGA here. How can you have a legislature that doesn't vote that way?
Right.
And I think there are two things going on. There's cheating, but then also people are like busy working, and they're like not stepping up and saying, okay, it's my turn to serve. Government is not supposed to be a fun job. Government is supposed to be what you do because it's your obligation, and you do your 2-year term, and then you give it to somebody else, and they don't want to do it either, but they got to do it because we got to do it. It's up to us. But it's become this situation where people get in power and they stay in power. And it's not a good situation.
Well, we talked about that in small communities. The person gets the job and they stay in the job. So instead of having them be run an election and have somebody else serve, they're serving for 27, 30 years.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to challenge the status quo because, well, I'm going to retire or I don't want to lose my job. It's complicated. It's a little bit complicated. People are busy working. Yes.
Yes. And that's a problem because we need good people doing the work. Now, a clerk, I don't mind a clerk being more of a permanent person. That's kind of like a job. I would agree with that. Yep. But with your legislators, come on, your legislators are supposed to be representing the people. They set their plow aside and they go serve for 2 years and then then
return home. Wouldn't that be something? That'd be really interesting. Yeah, if you ever watched.
And while you're serving, I'll plow your field for you. And then while I'm serving, you plow my field for me. I mean, I think that's the way it's really supposed to be. Now, I don't want to, be all la land and idealistic, but that's really the problem is that the people aren't engaged in Missouri, I think. And we need the party, I think, is largely responsible for that. The party should be identifying people who are qualified and cornering them and say, look, we need you to run and we want you to serve us for 4 years and we'll figure out the details. But
yeah, it's interesting. You bring up Republican Central Committees, but I just had a conversation with somebody, I can't remember what county she's in now, but she wanted to get involved. And she said, but I don't know how do I get involved? And I said, well, have you identified your Republican Central Committee? She said, I tried to find them. Many of the Republican Central Committees here are not out in the open. There's a small group of people and it's really hard to break into some of them, not all of them. And that's kind of had the state convention struggle. And so that's what's been going on. You're up to date on all of that. But I do think that's, they're maybe not doing what they need to do as well as they could.
So
or maybe they're doing it exactly the way they want to do it.
Right. So I really like it. We already have 2 really good questions.
Yeah,
Shall we just jump right into them?
Yeah.
Because B. Hopfer says, what do you do when the county clerk says that there is no problem? Well, how many clerks have I met with across the country? Hundreds. And they all say there's no problem. And then when I sit down with them and show them their own data or hack into their systems right in front of their face, then they realize that there's a problem. In one beautiful situation here, which Jim Kozlowski was with me, so he witnessed this. So you can verify this story. I sat down with a clerk who'd been in office for 29 years, and she said, I know there's fraud in my election. She says, I know they're doing it. I can see it. I can't figure out how they're doing it. She says, I've turned off all the automatic systems I can. I keep paper records. I'm all over this. I just can't figure it out. And so she and I talked for about an hour, kind of figuring out how it was getting in there. And then her face the blood drained from her face. And she's like, well, I don't want to be Tina Peters. So I don't want to do anything about it. And next year I'm going to retire and I don't want to get fired and lose my pension. And then, so I looked over at her deputy clerk. Jim was there. He'll witness this. And what are you going to do? And she's like, well, I'm a single mom with 2 kids. So, I need the job. I can't raise trouble or they'll fire me. And so it's not that the clerks are bad people. This guy, Mr. Hopfer, who's saying that their clerk thinks everything's okay. I'm just going to tell you, your clerk is not right. Your elections are in big trouble. I can prove it. I have proven it all over the state. I can prove that your machines are online. Even Jay Ashcroft, after the Halderman report came out, did a public press conference and admitted that your machines are vulnerable and that there are all sorts of security vulnerabilities that the counties need to look into because they can go online. But yet the clerks themselves will say, oh no, the machines are not on the internet. Well, that's just because the clerks don't know. So I'm not trying to badmouth the clerks. In fact, my whole goal, as you've been seeing all week, is to put power back in the hands of the clerks. 7 steps taking our elections back. I trust our local clerks more than I trust anybody. I want them in charge. So I don't want to badmouth the Perry County clerk, but I'm telling you, if they think everything's okay, they're confused. And I've run every single county. I was doing that today. I was running the data. And when I show clerks their own voter rolls, they are aghast. They don't even know. I could also tell that story about the head clerk.
Well, that might be a good one. And what I learned hearing the presentation is I didn't really think about how they used to do it, versus the way we do it now. And that the feeling that, because I'm on my computer, I'm a county clerk, I'm at the computer and I'm doing it. And I'm thinking like, yes, I'm in control of my data. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But it's really not. It's a dumb terminal, like you said. That information is not in that computer. It's in the state's central computer. So I'm just simply tagging into that and it's coming back. That was a good picture when I saw that. I was like, okay, I see. So that there could be something going on over there that your county clerk, bless their hearts. I mean, they really are being like, no, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going through the obituaries.
Yeah, they got checklists. Exactly.
Yeah. I do not personally know or have heard where I felt there was a malicious county clerk. Now, there might be other counties on here that will challenge me on that, and let's talk about it. Let's find out if that is the case.
Well, maybe it is time for that story about that clerk. So in 2021, I was traveling around your state quite a bit, and I was Ann Kelly, the former legislator. She was driving me around, and she and I were both pretty naive, to be honest. That first year, we thought that all we had to do was show the clerks what the problems were, and they would respond and want to address it. And that's a reasonable way to think. So we sat down with the head clerk in the state. It was me and Ann. We sat there, and it was just the three of us in his office. He's like the head of the Clerks Association for your state. And as soon as I sat down, he launched into this tirade about how secure their systems are and how Missouri has the gold standard in security and network security and everything is secure. And after about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I just kind of said, I'm not here to talk about your machines. And he kind of looked baffled at me. I understand the confusion. Since I work close with Mike Lindell, people say, oh, he must be an anti-machine guy, which I am, but that isn't what I was there to talk about. I said, hey, I'm here to talk about your voter rolls today. And he said, what do you mean my voter rolls? And I said, well, I think your elections are being stolen primarily in Missouri through your voter rolls. And he kind of looked at me a little baffled. What do you mean? So I brought out my computer. I showed him the data. I showed him the canvassing data we'd done. I showed him all kinds of things. And after about 10 minutes, and I promise this is the truth, I'm not making this up, I have witnesses, he crossed his arms, he leaned back, let out a big sigh. Yeah, we know we have tens of thousands of ballots being stuffed in our elections. He said it just like that. And Ann Kelly's mouth just fell open. What? She says, what? If you know that, why aren't you telling the clerks? I mean, I had the same kind of reaction. And his answer, I will never forget it. I can quote it word for word. Quote, if we told our clerks how many ballots were being stuffed in their elections, the whole state would blow up and everyone would lose faith in our elections, unquote. And then, we were just, Ann Kelly and I were just sitting there aghast. And then he kind of launched into this, this long lecture about how he knew all the fraud that was happening everywhere in the state. He was talking about how the counties negotiate. We'll give you that county if you give us this one, and we'll let you stuff over there and we'll stuff over here. I mean, it was like, he went on for like 20 minutes. It was just so much bravado. Like he was proud of the fact
that's Scholler. I mean, that's who it is. I mean, that's him, right?
I'm glad you know his personality, because as you hear me describing it, completely, I'm not making this up.
Yeah, it sounds just like him.
And it's like, it was kind of baffling to me that he knows about it.
And he thought it was okay.
And he's proud that he knows about it. And they're not doing anything about it. The whole thing was kind of a baffling thing. So the person who talked about Perry County, I've given you two stories now. The head clerk for the whole state and another county, which I'm not going to say her name. So that's why, I can go on and I can show you every county, and I have on my Rumble channel, I put graphs of every county up there showing that they're all centrally controlled. There isn't an exception.
Yeah, that's good. That was good to understand and know. All right, looks like we got another question.
He's like, what votes and issues specifically make this gentleman, thank you for the compliment, think that our state is not passing enough MAGA-esque legislation? Well, there are two things I could show you. First, I came to your state in 2022 at the request of some of your people here, and your legislature had put together some election reform legislation, and I spent an entire day sitting in, I think it was actually more like 2 days, maybe a day and a half, sitting in a big table, and we spread it out, and the people were bringing, well, what about this? What about this? And we basically dissected that big bill that you guys had going. And I showed the flaws and I showed the strengths, and we did a lot of editing. And then that document went back to your committee, the committee in the
committee hearings. Yeah.
And by the time it came out of committee, it was eviscerated. It was essentially emasculated. It had they'd taken out all the strength. They'd taken out all the teeth out of it. Mm-hmm. There's Jim Kozlowski showed me something last year. You also passed another bill in 2024, I believe. And he said that in that bill, it actually says that the counties are required to do penetration testing on their systems. And just think about that for a minute. Okay. Machines that can't connect to the internet
don't need to be tested.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an admission, isn't it? It's an admission.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and now don't quote me on this part, but I think it said they had to test them every other year at minimum. And so not only is that an admission, it's a requirement. And so, but the interesting thing is the language is written kind of shady. So the county themselves don't have to do the penetration test. The Secretary of State can do it. And so all of a sudden you're in this kind of, it's sort of like doing a self-audit. We want to have external audits,
right,
to really check things. And so, in other words, the legislation that eventually got passed doesn't really make any difference to the. Now, I can show also, and if you share my screen for a minute, I'll show this. What I mean. Yes, exactly. So
yes, that's the distribution, and then we can add. Act for Missouri can add with the uniparty theory.
Yes. So what this is, these are data from the Freedom Foundation. They are, it's the Freedom Index. It's they do scoring of every legislature and every legislator in the country. So this is for the Congress 2 years ago, and they're basically scoring them. And the way it works is if somebody always votes consistently with the Constitution, they get a 100% rating. If they never vote consistently, they get a 0% rating. And then what I've done is I've gathered all those data. It's pages and pages of data, and I've converted it to a graph. And I'm showing you the blue dots are the Democrats and the red dots are the Republicans, and there are a couple of independents in our Congress. And I just want you to see people wonder why Trump can't get the SAVE Act passed. Well, we only have a few defenders of the Constitution. We have a lot of people that are compromised that are Republicans. Notice they're red, they're Republicans. We have communists in disguise, and we have communists. And if I show you the same graph for Missouri, this is, I've been here with you for a week, and Amy and Mike and I have been discussing at length in the car. This is the distribution of how your legislatures vote in 2024. And you'll notice you've got the same problem here. And I think there's a very simple explanation why this is the case. It's because in your state, you can't get elected if you're not, most places, if you're not, I'm stopping sharing. You can't get elected unless you have an R in front of your name, because the counties are like way MAGA. So what's happening in your state is good conservative candidates are not stepping up to run. And what's happening instead is Democrats are coming forward. They put an R in front of their name. They get elected, and then they get into office. And so that's why it's not MAGA-esque legislation that's happening. Your legislature is full of people that are compromising when you shouldn't even need to compromise. Mike was saying all week, you guys have a super majority. You should be able to easily have very conservative legislation here. And Michael says here, so you're strictly talking about election and voter legislation. No, I'm not. I just showed you all the constitutional issues. So no, I'm talking about your legislature overall is not voting in a good conservative way.
They don't even pretend they're voting for the Constitution, Michael. They've had people in Congress almost make fun of those, like Bryant Wolfen, that vote with the Constitution primarily. It's not up for debate. They don't even pretend to vote with the Constitution.
So
embarrassing.
I mean, and the Constitution is for all of us. That's the beauty of it, right? It's the lay of the rules of the game, rules of engagement. So both Democrat and Republicans can be represented and we can get these policies out. But that's not what's happening. They're flipping sides. They're not defined. And it's really been, I mean, we did it too, because you hear there's a uniparty. So Mike and I, we talked about that. I said, well, the data is going to show that then. Well, and the data did show that,
it does.
Clearly shows that the majority of Democrats, 60%, voted for Republican legislation. So if I was a Democrat, I'd want some explanation for that. Because I'm thinking, you're voting for Republican bills. And if I'm a Republican, I'm going to say, why was a Democrat so happy to vote for a Republican bill? We should be miles apart because we're so different right now in the way we view the world. But you don't see that. So somebody's compromise, something's going on. And so whether you're Republican or Democrat, I think you should be asking some questions.
I used the example in my presentation. You heard me last night where in Montana, I don't want people in Missouri to think I'm picking on you. I mean, I like you guys. I got my Missouri bow tie, my Philly bow tie on. Yeah. And I've been on the floor of your house, declared formally to be a friend of Missouri. I'm not picking on you in particular. This is a problem that's all around the country. In Montana, for example, they have 50 state senators. And in the 2024 election, they won 32-18. So everybody was all excited. We've got a super majority in the Senate. We're going to reform our elections. We're going to reform our tax laws. We're going to do all this reform. Well, what happened was, the first week of their legislative session, 9 of the quote unquote Republicans caucused with the Democrats. So they have the same problem. You have people that are running under the Republican label, getting elected as a Republican, but they're really not ideologically aligned with the Republicans in their state. You have that problem big time in Missouri. Has to be, because you're like majorly MAGA.
Yeah, we're kind of, Rob can contest this. This is what a lot of our conversations are about, is what is really going on,
Right. Yeah, because I don't, I just, if people are, Democrats are coming in.
Yeah, they are.
I don't think we're talking about Democrats and Republicans, as this is not a party issue. This is whether you want to be free or not, because, we talk about it all the time on the show. If you don't choose your leaders in a constitutional republic, by definition, you're not free anymore. So you have to make sure that you got to get away from party every now and again and just look at things and say, that is our government. How's our government addressing things as just one entity? And if they're not taking care of elections and fighting for transparency in elections, then we got a problem. That's the way I see it. I don't understand why it's not. Both citizens within each party should be upset.
I'm with you. And I'll work side by side with the Democrat. Let's clean up the voter rolls. Let's make sure the elections, because we want everybody to feel that they're valid. If we don't feel there's valid elections, then what are we doing?
You and I and Mike spent a lot of time on the roads this week. I think the Democrats and the Republicans can agree that you need to have good roads, and you don't have good roads.
That's for sure.
They were terrible.
It was pretty bumpy out there, I got to tell you. And Amy's got a nice Cadillac SUV, and it was pretty hard for me to be working in the back seat. It was pretty. I think the roads were bumpier than the railroad tracks. I think.
Yeah, because I went to the railroad tracks. I said, "Okay, hold on," and it was really easy. He goes, "Well, that was pretty mild compared to what we've been across."
That road we were on yesterday afternoon, they didn't need a speed limit on it because you weren't going to go very fast down that road.
Wow, right? What a journey.
So I don't want people in Missouri to think I don't like them. I love them, and I think I love your Capitol building. It's one of my favorite in the whole country, and I've sung up there in that beautiful, sound area. And then you have amazing sayings engraved, and the values. I've spoken in that rotunda before with a screen, and a few hundred people in there. I've traveled your state quite a bit. I love your state. I love this place. It saddens me that the people here are unengaged, that we need to get them awake and engaged. And that's what I think the 4 of us have been doing this week. We're waking people up, and not just this week. I know you 3 have been doing this for a while. So I'm glad to join your team and do some cage rattling this week.
There you go. Rob likes that idea. He smiled, I can tell. All right, so do we have another question, Mike, or where are we at? Oh.
So I thought that was pretty fun to address the questions right off like that.
Yeah.
And I'm still covering the same material I would have covered anyway, but we're addressing the questions.
what do we got? Plus outside dark money. How do you vet candidates and hope they are honest?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Act for Missouri put out a PDF of questions to ask your candidates. And I think we need to know a little bit more about how our government works, because the first question you should ask is, what is the proper role of government? And
What's
let me
the
tell
answer
you,
to that question, Amy?
well, we've gotten some to protect your rights and liberty and property, but we've had some people say to help spend your tax money. And we went, okay, so yes, we need to get
Governments
that
are
answer.
established among men. You're
Right.
quoting the Constitution.
Right. And they pledge an oath to uphold the Missouri Constitution.
Yes.
So when they get up there, and this goes for both sides should be holding up the Missouri Constitution. Right. And we don't see that. And then they're very upset when citizens say that, well, that bill's unconstitutional. Oh, I'm like, well, what else do we have? I mean, that's how we got here.
The graph I just showed you wasn't a graph of conservatives versus liberals. It was a graph of how do people vote on constitutional issues.
Yes.
And they're not voting consistently with the Constitution. That's right there.
And I think both Democrats need to say, do I want my rep to follow the Constitution, or am I okay with them not voting with the Constitution? That's just real clarity, so you can decide if you want to be affiliated with that party or the other.
You and Mike showed me something this week, or described something to me this week that was really an eye-opener to me.
Oh, I don't know what this is.
Because your representatives are supposed to be representing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they're hiding their votes from you.
Right. Right.
Now, wait a minute. So, one of the questions is, how do you vet your candidates? How should we evaluate our candidates? If your candidate is not willing to tell you how he votes and why he votes that way, I think that's a pretty bad candidate right there.
Right. That was sweet. Yeah.
Michael says 40% of Missourians voted for Kamala Harris, so it might not be as red as you perceived it to be. Actually, that's right on. That's almost 2-1. But most of the counties, that includes the statewide average, but most of the counties are like 3-1 MAGA. So that's why even on a whole, even when you average, it's still 60-40 is still almost 2-1. 35-70 would be 2-1. So I know what your state is. I've been looking at your election numbers. You're very conservative, and that's a little bit of an eye opener to me. Why I can come, and I guess it's kind of the truth, because when I go to a place like California, I have no trouble getting teams started. Oregon, no trouble getting teams started. Why? Because they're feeling the pain. They're feeling the pain of their government, and they're reacting. They want to address the problems that the government is imposing. Whereas in Missouri, it's not as bad yet. The pain level isn't high enough, so you guys aren't awake as much as I'd like you to be. So that's one of the reasons why Amy and Mike brought me here. I'm showing you guys your own situation, and I described the South Korea situation and showed its direct connections to Missouri. It's a pretty important, eye-opening experience, I think. I call it the red pill experience.
Yeah, it was shocking, and I think even more shocking that it wasn't on the news.
Yes. And that almost sounds like a segue, and I didn't mean to do it, but I'll do the segue.
Yeah, I mean, I think you came in. So you came in hot off that event, right? I mean, he was like, I couldn't really get a hold of you, so I was thinking, I hope this guy's coming.
I hope he's coming.
Right, but no wonder you're in the middle of a huge, color revolution in South Korea, and makes perfect sense. So when you get here, that's heavy on your mind that this country has lost their country. And it's fraudulent votes or voting.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
Yes, it's incredible. I went over to South Korea. I didn't know I was going there to do what I did, but I was in the middle of an amazing election fraud, and everybody knows it. It's like not even a question. And million people are protesting in the streets right now in South Korea. And basically what's happened in South Korea is the country's been taken over by communism, and nobody knows why, because the state-controlled media, the communism-controlled media, is stifling it. So that's where I was last week, is I brought over the former prime minister with me. We were in Vegas, and we got him on Bannon, and we're writing letters. We're trying to bring public awareness to what just happened in South Korea. In America, for me to say, the Oregon government is communist or something, that's one level of communism. I'm talking communism. I'm talking CCP. North Korea has taken over South Korea. What they couldn't do with bullets, they've now done with ballots. It's amazing. But do we want to do Tammy's question? She says, we have an issue with the clerks association who our clerks feel she has to answer for putting someone on the ballot. And we who are on the Central Committee think they're not Republican, but Democrat. Our clerk says her boss is the Clerks Association. By the way, that's not correct. Who pays her? Who pays her?
We do.
Your county pays her.
The county, yeah.
Yes. The Central Committee. And who owns the Republican Party, by the way?
It's private.
It's a private corporation. Who gets to put the label Republican on a candidate? The Republican Party gets to do that. The clerk, it does not get to do that. That's not correct. And so this is another problem. People don't know the law, and neither do the clerks. And so the clerks tell you what they've been told to think and say, but they're often wrong. So that's another things we've been teaching our teams, huh, Amy? We have a researcher on the team who reads the laws. You're going to know the laws better than the clerks because you're going to actually have read it.
All right. Looks like Michael's still hanging with us. Oh, wait, got another one. Flagship Patriot. Does cross-training in voter rolls, DL, jury participation matter? Is it normally all done separately, or is one office doing all three? Very good question.
I think she's talking about the clerks, right?
Yeah.
And they do, in most states I know, they use the voter rolls for jury duty.
Okay.
And what's fun is if you go in, if you have a clerk that'll cooperate, most clerks, they don't like to be exposed. But if you have a clerk that'll cooperate and you say, hey, how many of those postcards do you get back that say they can't serve because they're not a citizen?
Well, that's a good question.
How can that be if they're using the voter rolls? And the answer is there's a bunch of non-citizens on the voter rolls. That's how. Yeah. So Michael's saying, do you have any clear definitive evidence that there's any kind of widespread fraud taking place in Missouri that you can provide or posted somewhere? I've not seen it. Well, we had a team of Missouri canvassers 4 years ago, for example, that gave 550 cases, presented 550 cases to Jay Ashcroft. And we had a deal with him that if we showed him 100 cases, he would do a statewide investigation. We brought in 550, and he never acknowledged it, and we gave it in a formal presentation. And because it's a legal matter, I mean, we don't always rush to put those out into the public immediately. But his question's well taken. And it's one of the reasons why in Oregon, and my scheduler there from Oregon is on tonight. Her name's Teresa. She knows about this. In Washington County, Oregon, we've begun something that we're going to be doing in all the other counties. We actually are going to the county commissioner meetings and reading the actual cases of fraud into the public record relentlessly, week after week after week. Multiple cases of fraud. This person died 15 years ago. They voted 7 times afterwards. This, giving actual cases of fraud one after another, and it's quite widespread. Now, the term widespread, I think is a good way I can answer that. Let me bring that.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to bring it back. So some of you may know Conservatives of Missouri, Heather Overstreet. She had on her page, so she did TikTok about some election integrity question in Columbia, Missouri. There must have been, within just a few minutes, 10 comments, 10 examples of, my aunt doesn't live here, but she received this, and this, and this, and this. It was rampant. I mean, I wanted to snapshot it because I'm like, there's evidence right there. So
you're talking about during my presentation?
Just today, like there was just a random TikTok video she put about something that's going on in Columbia, but then the people following started commenting and giving their personal examples of having somebody get a ballot and, all the different situations. So, I mean, that was just within 30 minutes.
Yeah. You've seen me presenting the voter rolls to audiences and it never fails. I mean, your voter rolls are very dirty. And that isn't directly fraud, but that's the beginning of the fraud. And so I can prove that just by showing people their voter rolls. And you saw me doing it. I bring up people, their own voter rolls. I said, let's look up your address. And we look it up and they go, well, that person doesn't live there anymore, but they're still active in the rolls. Oh, that person's dead. Oh, but they were in the rolls for 2 years after they died. You saw example after example after example that the voter rolls are dirty. And they're not dirty because the clerk is bad or not doing their job.
Now let's clarify something for a second. So a dirty voter roll doesn't mean it's fraud. It means that it's messy, that it's not clear, and that there's, I think that's what people assume when we say dirty, that means there's all that, it's fraud. That's not a fraudulent vote, right? Right.
Well, let's say, for example, that a non-citizen goes to the DMV and gets registered to vote, okay? Because that's what happens. All right. Now, if they never voted, that's not fraud.
No fraud.
Okay, but it's a dirty voter roll.
Great.
And they should not be in the rolls. Let's say somebody passes away and they were out of state when they passed away. So your local obituaries didn't cover it. Your clerk didn't see it. She didn't take it out. And they stay in the rolls for years. Okay, is that fraud? No, it just means that voter rolls are dirty. However, I know for a fact, I'm not speculating, that there are groups that track this stuff and they look in the rolls and they say, aha, John Smith died 5 years ago and he's still in the rolls. We're going to use his name and cast ballots using his name. That happens. And the problem is the system enables that. So dirty voter rolls itself are not fraud, but people use the dirty voter rolls to do fraud.
Okay. And the dirty voter rolls, does that go to your churning point?
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Because that is where I think a lot of people
don't know about that.
Yeah, it's the churning of the voter rolls. And I
think let's bring that up.
Yeah, let's look at that.
Yeah, I'm going to get that ready and we'll share my screen once I get it ready here. Sorry, I had the Korea stuff up.
And the slide that explains the 10 in and the 10 out.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great really, animation.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, here we go. Here it is. All right, Shift F5. So if you'll share my screen. Okay, so imagine your county has 100 people in it and 10 people move out and 10 people move in. So in other words, you have 20 changes to the rolls. We'll do the animation again. You have 100 people in the county, 10 people move out, 10 people move in. So you've had 20 changes to your population. So what we would say is your population has churned 20%. Well, we can say the same thing about your voter rolls. If your voter rolls have 100 people in it, and 10 people move out and 10 people move in, then you've had 20 changes. So your voter rolls have churned 20%. That's what we say when we talk about voter rolls churning. So how much are your voter rolls churning is what is shocking.
Right. So let's look at, Rob, what county are you in, Rob?
Well, I'm in Florida now, but when I lived in St. Charles County out in O'Fallon.
St. Charles. And then you do your podcast out here part-time. So so what if we looked at the chart with St. Charles County, their data to show the churn rate? Because Rob, you've lived there, you might be able to give some insight as to you agree of the churn rate.
All right, so let me bring up St. Charles. I think I just ran that a little bit ago. I'll bring that up. I just ran all the counties. Some of them were St. Charles. There it is. Okay. It's going to take a second to load because it's a big count.
So we're going to look at so it's going to show the population, the voter, and you'll see it's very interesting. I'm puzzled how the population can churn over 100% over a period of time.
We picked a large counties.
Oh, do we? Oh, well, okay.
If I picked a small county, I'd be explaining it already. But let me just kind of talk about this for a minute. So Amy mentioned it earlier in our discussion. The clerks think they're in control of their election. They think they're in control of the rolls because they log into the state system and they add and remove people from the rolls. But what they don't understand is the amount that they're adding and removing is tiny compared to what the state is adding and removing. But they don't know that because they don't have their own copy. And they're not comparing a copy week to week, month to month, and saying, oh, who did they add? Who did they remove? They just kind of notice that it's about the same amount all the time. And so they think that's just normal in their stuff. And so I have multiple copies of your voter rolls. And what I'm doing is I'm comparing snapshot to snapshot 1 year apart. And I can show you everybody that's added and removed. And we're talking in the last 9 years, you've added in, there it is. You've added and removed more people from your voter rolls than you have in the voter rolls to begin with. So yes, I'll share my screen again here. Hang on, let me click on share
Okay,
screen.
so this is St. Charles County.
St. Charles County. Notice I didn't pick this, so we're not cherry picking, right? Okay. All right, I'm sharing my screen. You got it? All right, here, I'm going to make the screen big. So what this is this is 7. Here, I'm making these so you don't have, it fits. Okay, good. Sorry. It's hard to see when you zoom in on it. Okay, so I have 7 copies of the voter rolls, starting from June of 2017 and ending in March of 2026. So it's about a 9-year span, and it's not equally spaced, but on average, it's about a year or two spaced apart. So in other words, in 2017, St. Charles County had 264,000 people in the voter rolls. You can see that there, 264,000. And they had 250,000 active and 14,000 inactive. So that's, how do I know that? Because I've got the rolls. They're right here. We can go through them. I can show you everybody in the rolls from beginning to end. I know their name and address, their age, what their voting history is like. I've got all this information about every voter. So that's what these numbers represent. Then I've got the voter rolls 3.5 years later. And this didn't bring up the population for us for some reason. Okay, probably something to do with the fact I'm showing it to you right now. Okay, but anyway, your voter rolls grew from 264 to 292, and you notice you still got your inactives also increased up to 16,000. Your total voters went up to 275. Now, what does your clerk think? Your clerk thinks, okay, we went from 264 to 292, but what really happened is it went down 37,000 and up 65,000. Between December of 2020 and July of 2021, that's only 8 months later, it went down 14,000 and up 5,500.
So 14,000 people didn't move, die, disappear. Why would 14,000 people be removed?
Exactly. And that, what's that?
Another 37,000. That's a lot of people moving out of St. Charles County.
So does that seem realistic to you, Rob?
No.
Right. That's where but the clerk, you can see where she's just seeing the numbers.
That's better than 10% of the people are moving out of St. Charles County.
Right.
And what it is this is, and I'm showing it over, this pattern is every single time. It's happening constantly.
But then look how many was added. 65,000 was added.
Right. So that's how many were removed. That's how many were added. Removed, added, removed, added, removed, added. So remember, I told you I can calculate a churn. Like here's a churn. You take how many are removed, how many added, you add it together, you divide by here, and it's a 14% churn in that one period of time. And it's 5% in that. That's a shorter period of time. But then, it's like 6 months. But you notice over the 9-year period of time, your rolls churned 100%.
So did the population turn over 100% in 9 years?
No, did not.
It's not, it doesn't make sense.
So I'm still sharing my screen, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is what you need to understand. What's churning is not the real voters. The people who, a clean voter rolls is typically about 70% of the voting age population. This churns, but it's a small amount. It's normal. People die, people move in, people move out. There's a small churn, a few percent a year. That's normal. What's happened in your state, and I didn't show these graphs, but what's happened in your state is your voter rolls have been inflated. They're about 20% inflated. That's what's churning. That's what's happening. Your state is adding and removing people, not your clerk. And you might say, well, who cares? So what? They're adding and removing people. No, it's important because every time you add somebody to the rolls, they are an active voter for at least 4 to 6 years. What do you mean by that? So let me explain what I mean by that. So Let's see, I can get you back up here. I stopped sharing. I got to see you again. There you go. So what happens is somebody gets in the rolls and because they got a driver's license, or somebody gets in the rolls because they renewed their car, or they're getting welfare, or they went to jail. You touch any government agency, you're automatically put in the rolls. So then what happens is they don't vote and they don't vote again. So they miss 2 federal elections. 4 years later, the clerk mails them a postcard and says, hello, anybody home? And they don't answer. And so then they're made inactive in the rolls. Right. And then if they miss another election, they're supposed to be removed. So think about it. A person who wasn't really a local person, who shouldn't be in the rolls, ends up being in the rolls for many years, 8 to 10 years oftentimes. So what's happening is that they then get taken off. But the whole time that they've been taking off, they're also adding new people like that. So there's this massive churn. Your population did not churn 100%, but your voter rolls did. And the problem with that is it generates this credit line, this wiggle room for people to steal votes, for people to stuff votes, for people who aren't real voters. That's the problem. And when I show this to the clerks, 201, they always deny it. Then I show them the names. Then they have to admit it. And then what they say is, oh, well, Dr. Frank, we have to trust the state because the state is where the system is. And then I say, that's the problem. You shouldn't be trusting the state. You should have control of your own voter rolls. Nobody goes into your voter rolls that you haven't checked out. Nobody comes out that you haven't checked out. That's your job. As long as you're letting somebody else, somewhere else, change your rolls, your election is vulnerable. There are 3 parts to an election: who gets to vote, how you vote and count them up, and how you report it. And I told a story in my presentations about in Pennsylvania, how we have the electronic records proving that NGOs in the state of Pennsylvania were adding large numbers, tens of thousands of people, actually hundreds of thousands of people, to the voter rolls right before the election, stuffing ballots for them, and then they were being taken out of the rolls right afterwards. That churn, that's an example of churn, that's what enables fraud right from the beginning. So that's a huge loophole in your state that needs to be sealed. So when they're talking about widespread fraud, that is widespread. And by the way, I've run those numbers for every county in Missouri, and you small little red counties that think you don't have it, you got the same churn as everywhere else. What? How could we have the same churn everywhere, Dr. Frank? That's right. It's the same everywhere because it's centrally controlled. That's my point. That's why we have to return it to local control. As long as you're letting the state control it. And for years, you were giving your voter rolls to ERIC, E-R-I-C, and they were the ones doing the churning. Now you've taken it and put it in a new organization and they're still churning it. How do I know? I got the rolls. I'm watching it happen. So that's kind of a long explanation, Rob, but I think now you know what churn is. And it's how I sit down with clerks and prove to them they're not in control of the rolls. They think they are, but they're not.
Okay, it's very interesting. Now there's a couple of comments. I guess I'm not sure.
Well, now we can deal with some questions. Yes.
I guess so. Michael's back. Michael's stick. Oh no, here we go. We switched. Oh, Michael Burton gave the corruption. Okay. And we don't really know how.
I'm looking at Teresa. She says, are these people moving from residence to residence or county to county? If they're within county, they don't disappear from the rolls. And if you look at the national statistics, a lot of people move within county to county, and they would stay in the rolls. They wouldn't be churned. So
she thinks St. Charles is a huge growing county that would have people move within the county, but that wouldn't be in the county. Okay.
Well, so for example, I understand it. And if I were sitting in her shoes, I would think the same thing. I was just down in the panhandle of Florida, and they say, oh, but Dr. Frank, we have a military base here. People are coming in and out. That's why I ran the whole state, because nobody believes me until I run every county. And guess what? It's every county in your state. Go ahead, pick another one. It'll be the same. My point is all the counties are turning like that. It's easy to explain away when you only look at one county, but not when you look at all the counties, and all the counties have turned like that.
Okay.
Good question, Teresa. Thank you for that.
Yeah, the questions are good. So let's see. Is there another one up there? I think, Mike, you're kind of putting them up on the screen. Let's see. Oh, okay. There we go. Can you see that one?
Do you believe there's 5 to 25 illegal votes taken in Missouri each election, or 500 to 1,000 or more? Oh, he wants to know whether it's small or big. And I think it's sort of the problem with widespread. It is not a metric unit. What does it mean when we say widespread? Are we talking a little? Are we talking a lot? What are we talking? I would say you have, remember my story where I quoted Shane Scholler. And I said, out of his mouth, he confirmed what I'd found. And he said, quote, we know we have tens of thousands of ballots being stuffed in our elections. Okay. So that's widespread fraud. By the way, the next day after I spoke to him, I was in Eric Schmidt's office, sitting across the table with him, and Kelly was sitting next to me too. I have witnesses. And he said the same thing to me. So it's widespread. It's not 500. It's not 1,000. It's tens of thousands. How do people vote if they don't have an ID? Oh, okay. I guess it's time for me to show that. To show that interesting screen. Let me bring that up. So, and that also brings up the Korea connection. So, let's see, view slide sorter. Didn't know I was going to be doing this tonight, or would be a little better organized. I thought we'd just have a discussion.
No, we're good.
So, in I'll find it here. I want to bring up the news article Kash Patel put up, where the federal government seized 1 million fake driver's licenses and 1 million fake ballots. And it's not in that presentation. It'll be in this one then. Okay. Sorry, it's taking me a second to find it.
And I see Crystal's comment. I know she's in Kennett, and there's a big issue with them going to the DMV and getting a voter registration through there.
Yeah, everybody's getting automatically registered in all these different systems, and they're sort of
without checking citizenship,
being verified. And
mm-hmm.
I don't know why I can't find this. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And
I've been showing it to everybody at every presentation.
We'll get it.
I'm probably trying to go too fast. Slow down and look. Yeah. Anyway, there's last June, Kash Patel got up and announced that the FBI had seized 1 million fake driver's licenses and 1 million fake ballots. And those ballots and fake driver's licenses were produced in China, and they were shipped out of South Korea by an organization known as AWEB, AWEB. And I've got the news clipping. I just was trying to find it right then, and I'm just not finding it on short notice, but I showed it in my presentation last night, so Amy will vouch that I have it. But so how do people vote without an ID? They can vote with a fake ID. And then people say, well, what about mail-in voting? And Jim Kozlowski, I noticed, was on this chat. Good to see you, Jim. Jim has a great story about St. Louis, where he talks about how the signatures have all been given away, and and the signatures are perfect digital matches. You've given away all the signatures to outside organizations, and they're using them to cheat your elections. So just because you have an ID or a signature doesn't mean that your elections are secure. Not at all.
Okay, so let's go back to the fake IDs and the South Korea connection, because it's AWEB, and Rob, have you ever heard of AWEB? Never heard of
just
it.
When he brought it up on the show.
Yeah. So
First
I
time
didn't know we're a part of a world organization, right? That is an election entity, I guess.
Yeah, let me share my screen for a minute, because this is when I say there's widespread fraud, people kind of think I'm a dinglehead sometimes. But let me just show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm sharing my screen. If you'll share my screen, I'll bring this up. So here we go.
Thank you, Jim, for putting that link up there.
So this is from a movie that Mr. Lindell made in 2021. And what it does is it's showing you the targets of communications coming from Huawei and South Korea. This is actually AWEB that it's coming from. And guess where they're going? Do you see all this stuff going into Missouri?
That's the green marker.
Yes. And it's not, or it's maybe one of those black ones in there. It's actually going all over the country. But this animation, just by coincidence, was showing a lot of Missouri stuff.
So when you say going in, you're saying it's giving a digital count, it's giving a digital a voter number, voter ID. What do you mean by that?
So if you're going to cheat an election, you need a couple of things. You need to know what the tally is at all times.
Right.
And then you need to know who's voted. So let's say you're in an election, Amy, and you're running and you're behind 8-10 and you want to be ahead. So you stuff 4 ballots. Now you're ahead. Well, how do you know which ballots to stuff? You need to know who is in there who hasn't voted.
Right.
So you have to have access to the voter rolls live. So you look that up. Now you know who it is. Now you cast ballots using those names. So there's 2 things you need to know. You need to know who's already voted, and you need to know what the tallies are. That's what all that communication is. And it's two-way. It's saying, okay, how many people have voted? Oh, what's the tally right now? Oh, we're behind. So send us a list of who's voted already, and we're going to pick the low propensity voters and give you the information so you can print the ballots. And here's the phony ID, and here's what the signature looks like. So that's the kind of stuff that's going back and forth.
Okay.
And that's how the elections are being cheated on a widespread scale. People, if you look at the media, you will find that the FBI, there's multiple occurrences of this. For example, 200,000 ballots were shipped from New York to Pennsylvania. The million fake IDs and million fake ballots that were seized outside of Detroit in October of 2020, right before the election, or the million ballots that were seized in Maricopa. This is real. This is actually happening, and the FBI has those records. And people are like, well, why didn't we talk about it? Well, because when Trump was elected in 2020, wasn't elected. Well, I'm sorry, when the election happened in 2020, Trump was president. He ordered the Justice Department to do an investigation. They did an investigation, but then that's an ongoing investigation. And then Biden was president, and all that got put under the carpet. Now that Trump's back in office, he's starting to bring that up. That's why we're hearing about it now in the media, and why you're hearing about Folsom and Georgia and Maricopa and the FBI coming in and seizing things, because they're building the case now that they can build the case. The Biden administration stifled all that. So that's what's going on. Now, the AWeB thing, the AWeB is a big deal. Let me share my screen again. The AWeB is a big deal. And I didn't really appreciate the magnitude of it until I was in South Korea recently. So let me share that. So let me get the AWeB thing up. So what happens is, AWeB, am I sharing right now?
Yep, I see. It's the Association of World Election Bodies in South Korea.
Yes,
and
it's in South Korea.
The United States is a member of that.
Yes, it is. There are 120 member nations. And basically, this is, in the words of the election fraud team over there, this is the international election fraud cartel. And it was started by Soros, and it's been funded by USAID for over a decade. Only last year, or I guess it was this year, Trump cut it. Actually, it was 2025 when he got into office. He cut the USAID funding, and a huge amount of that was going to this organization, AWeB. Now, what is it? It's basically the organization that goes around the world teaching people, teaching groups how to cheat elections. And just yesterday, I was in the car, and I think I mentioned it to you, Amy and Mike. My Korean team sent me a news clipping describing 6 months before the 2020 election, officials from this organization met with the Democrat Party in America. And we have it on record. They were meeting before the election. In other words, they were teaching them how to cheat, essentially. I mean, and it's not just the Democrats, so I don't want you to think it's just them.
So when you say teach them to cheat, what exactly? So this is, well, first of all, I don't even understand why we have a world election body when I'm in the United States. It's my country. I don't need the rest of the world even engaged in my election. I don't know about you, Rob, but I really feel like the United States should just probably handle it on their own. What do you think?
Seems like a better method.
I'm like, this is insane. A world election body. Why? What does any other country have even to do with my country's elections? And what would I want to do with anybody else's election?
Well, if you read their webpage, which I've done, it's basically saying we're here to help everybody modernize their elections and to help everybody have good quality elections.
Modernize. That's always a very tricky word.
Exactly. And so, but really what's happening is they are promoting the use of electronics. They're promoting the use of early voting. They're promoting all these things that make fraud very easy. And they're notorious for a couple of big screw ups. Recently, a couple of years ago, they really messed up the election in the Congo, and thousands of people from the Congo came and demonstrated in South Korea outside their building. They lost in the Asian cultures. Honor is a big deal, and to be shamed like that is big to them. And so my host called it the NEC Palace. They called the National Election Commission. The AWEB used to be located this beautiful building, and they got demoted, so they lost that building, and now they're putting kind of a normal office building. So
because of the mess up with the Congo election.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so that happened. Now, but what's interesting is because this is such a politically hot topic, none of the political parties, none of the officials are ever allowed to say the word AWEB. They're never allowed to make reference to this. It's like the dark secret that everybody knows, but nobody talks about. Well, I was there, as you see, and I took this selfie of myself because I was kind of documenting where I was as I was doing my work in South Korea for 2 weeks. And I posted it on social media. And to my amazement, the very next day, they featured me on the cover of their conservative periodical. It's the only conservative periodical in South Korea, sort of like our media. Most of it's left leaning. And so that was a shock to me. And guess what? The real message here is not, what a handsome looking devil. The real message is,
it's got the
what? America is here and we're talking about AWEB.
Because they're not allowed to talk about AWEB.
Exactly. And so that was it's politically, nixed. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. Oh, by the way, here's that article with the FBI. It was right next to my AWEB thing. Isn't where I usually put it. This is where Kash Patel last year in June 17 said, FBI reveals report on alleged Chinese plot with fake U.S. driver's licenses. They seized 1 million fake driver's licenses and fake ballots. So if you think that IDs are going to fix the problem, it might help, but there's like a dozen ways to cheat the elections. That's just one of the ways.
Dr. Frank, Michael Burton is still in there. Can I play that clip that I always play on my show where Holly Jones asked Ashcroft if illegals can vote in elections? I just think it's priceless.
Sure.
I saved it. I listen to it once a night before I go to bed just to remind myself how insane this is. All right, listen to this real fast, Michael, because I know you're in the a Democrat in JC. Check this out.
I have a quick question. Thank you for explaining that. If someone goes into a Social Security Administration office, just somewhere to register to vote, and they offer up their state-issued ID, whether it's a driver's license or a non-driver's license, how do we know if that is an illegal or a citizen? Because illegals...
That's a great question.
Illegals
that's a really good question.
Yeah, they're able to just come in, get ID, whether it's non-driver or driver. And how do we even know if these people are legal citizens of the United States and then can register to vote because they have a license?
We don't necessarily fully know that.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, if the government of the United States allows 10, 20, 30 million people into our country illegally, then they all get driver's license in the blue states and they can move around the country with these driver's license, and then they can register to vote with those driver's license, then why would any competent person in government not recognize that you can have elections manipulated? I just don't understand where this, to me, seems like ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. I don't understand it. And I'm just, Michael, help me out, brother, because I'm not very smart. Incredibly handsome, I think everybody would agree, but I'm not very smart. So maybe you can explain this to me. I don't understand it.
Michael has a comment there, which you posted. He says, what laws could the state of Missouri pass to make sure voters aren't using these fake IDs you're speaking of? I think the question illustrates the problem. You notice he's looking for a government solution. I don't think the solution is a government
It's
solution.
okay.
I think the solution is local control. If when I was a boy, we voted in the corner garage and everybody knew everybody. So the problem with having remote elections is you don't know. The idea is you want to have local small precincts, 1,000 people per precinct, and people run their own local elections under supervision and everything transparent, of course. But if Amy showed up at the polls and she's my neighbor, hey, how you doing, Amy? How's the kids? Here's your ballot. Show me your ID and vote. But somebody else walks up. Who are you? I don't recognize you. We need to police our own elections. We don't ask the government to fix problems. That's our mindset is upside down. I know, let's fix violence. Let's pass another gun law. That'll fix violence. No, that is not, the solution's not Tom. The solution is bottom up. Our clerk gets their info from the state rolls is the question. The clerk doesn't have her own rolls. She doesn't get info that she puts in her rolls. She uses the state rolls. It's the state that has the rolls. It's not the local clerk.
And your overarching theme is to bring those elections back into your local
Yes.
county.
And the reason we have precincts, the reason they're small is because we're supposed to be controlling our own elections. The whole idea is 1,000 people in a neighborhood, they know each other, they run an election, they hand count it that night, it's done. That is the way all of Europe does it, by the way. And they're done that night, okay? And they just did a big election. Where was it? Colombia? And they do hand counting, and the results were that night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember which country it was, but if you can do it in one day with hand counting, we don't need weeks and weeks of complicated pre-election stuff and weeks of counting afterwards. If we divide it up into this, it's already divided into precincts. That was the
and I think Rob has an excellent idea of making it a holiday that day,
Mm-hmm.
so that people can not only not worry about voting, they can also volunteer to help with those processes.
Trump has the same idea. It was in his tweet last year.
Yeah,
we're going to make it a legal holiday. Absolutely. And then everybody can help. Why not?
I agree.
Let's get her done in one day.
I like it.
The longer you early vote and the longer you after vote, the more potential problems we have and the more opportunities you have for fraud. If it's all at one time and everybody has hands on and everybody has eyes on, it's harder to cheat. There's always going to be ways to cheat. But if it's transparent and auditable afterwards, your elections are not auditable, by the way. And if you don't believe me, ask your clerk how many people voted in the recent election, and she'll give you a number. And then you go online and look what the Secretary of State says, doesn't match. And the clerk can't explain why. Because the clerk isn't doing the work. The clerk is using a system that's centrally controlled somewhere else.
So that makes sense to everybody, all of the listeners out there, that you report in and I say 1,000 people voted in my precinct. I send it in, then I look at the state's numbers and the state may say 800 people voted or 1,200 people voted. So those numbers do not match.
They never reconcile.
So that's crazy. Okay, Cheryl.
I mean, can you imagine going to the bank and you say, hey, Mr. Banker, what's my bank balance today? And he says, oh, it's $105. And you can say, well, my bank book says I have $110. He goes, don't worry about it. It never reconciles.
$5.
Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. That's the way it works right now. Your clerk will say, oh, it always is different. Don't worry about it. What? In other words, she can't audit. She can't tell you who voted in your election. What kind of a system is that? And then if you say, well, I question the machines, I don't trust them. And they'll say, well, we can't open them because, we're under contract. We're not allowed to open them. That's another story I could tell you. And I don't know if you heard this story, Rob, but I was in the state capitol administration building with me, Mr. Lindell, about 20 or 25 clerks, Eric Schmidt and his aides, John Ashcroft and or is it Jay Ashcroft?
Jay
Ashcroft and his aides. I got confused because I've seen that bust, in the, they've got that bust of his father. We're all in one room, and at the back in the front of the room, there are like these two big AV screens, big screens. And then Mike was in the middle and he was talking to the people, and I was at the side and I was using the screens to show fraud and whatnot. We were talking about that. And then Mike says, all your machines are accessible. All your machines are accessible online and hackable. And everybody denied it. And so we brought a white hat hacker on that screen, and he started showing every clerk their own passwords, not just their passwords for their EMS, their election management system, but the BIOS passwords for each one of their voting machines, which allows you to remote call them and change anything you want in them. It gives you BIOS level access. And then we would show them, many of them, he showed them their passwords for their own home computers, et cetera. So everybody was like shocked that this was available, that they were vulnerable like this, except that Kurt Barr's passwords weren't on there. And so he said, well, my election is secure. Sure, everybody else may be hacked, but my election is secure. And so Mike and he started screaming at each other. It was pretty ugly. I've never seen Mike so unprofessional, actually. They were cussing at each other, and it was pretty ugly.
That's what were the responses of the county clerks when they saw that they were basically hackable? You said there were 30 of them, and they just no big deal?
Well, one of them got up and said, I don't want this machine anymore. I don't want to use it. And
well, that's good to hear.
He says, how can I prove that this machine is capable of going online? And he says, I can't break this seal right here. I have to buy it. Mike stood up, took out his checkbook and said, how much you want? And Mike was going to buy it on the spot. But another clerk corrected him and says, no, we don't own this machine. We only lease it. So we have to comply. And so, even with the Secretary of State sitting right there and the Attorney General sitting right there, they were unwilling to crack it. And so then I said, well, look, I can prove that they can go online. How can you do that, Dr. Frank? All we need is a forensic imaging device, like I used with the Tina Peters case. And we'll put a forensic imaging device on it, and we'll measure everything. We can show the BIOS. We can show everything that's in there with that device. And the guy said, really? And so Mike and I switched the screen. I switched to Amazon.com and I ordered one, and it was $3,000 and it was on the way. I mean, we ordered it on the spot. We were going to prove it. Well, it arrived and nobody touched it. Nobody wanted to touch it. And here's why. The Tina Peters situation, we did this. We brought in forensic imaging devices and we imaged her device. We found 32 modems in her machine, and they're not supposed to be able to go online. The state of Colorado persecuted her and prosecuted her for that and put her in prison. The clerks are afraid. They're afraid to cross any lines because especially during the 4 years of the Biden administration, any clerk that stood up, poked their head out, it was bad news. The state governments would come down on them like a load of bricks. So they never used it. Nobody ever used that forensic imaging device, even though we bought them one.
That's sad.
I think they're afraid. I legitimately think they're afraid. But it's not hard. I was in Nebraska recently, and I was giving a talk, and about 30 people in the room, and the sheriff was in the back of the room, and he said, oh, no, our machines can't go on the internet, Dr. Frank. And I'm like, what do you mean? I said, I know everybody always says that, but trust me, they all go on the internet. And he goes, no, our machines don't go on the internet. Okay, give me your reasoning. Why do you think your machines don't go on the internet? He says, because I took a screwdriver, I took the back cover off, and I took this pair of pliers and I ripped that chip off the board.
So Nebraska, as I said, that's just very practical.
And so I said, okay, you win. Your machines are not on, but the rest of them are on. And he had no doubt because he had seen the motives with his own eyes and ripped them out. I've been in multiple lawsuits where the judge has ordered the machines open. We have pictures online showing, guess what? There's modems there. They're built into the motherboard. And so that's the... I'm sorry, I got distracted by that.
Yeah, the question. I know it's hard when the questions.
It's hard sometimes when that happens. So forgive me for losing my train of thought there. I don't think they recorded my presentation last night, did they?
I don't know.
But they did the other night.
One of the nights we do have it. So Flagship Patriot, we do have it. We'll probably have it on our website. So Cheryl said she has a record of a person that got wiped from her voter roll in Johnson County and added to someone in St. Louis, but the local clerk couldn't have done that. It happened at the state level.
That's right. And if you talk to the clerks, when you start showing them that the state is adding and remove people, they'll say, well, that's great. That's a good service that the state is providing. They're doing all that busy. I'm so busy. I don't have time to do all those changes. But what they don't understand is it isn't just changes county to county. It's also all the illegal aliens. It's also people who aren't real residents, and all that churning is going on a lot more than they realize.
That's happening from the remote to the state.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, technology. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a geek. I love computer stuff. I was the 297th person on the internet. So,
that's right. Your ID is 297.
I know. I'm not afraid of technology. I build computers. I build electronics to pay the taxes. I'm very comfortable with technology. I write software. I do all this stuff. So I'm not against technology. I think we can use it, but only if it's used in a safe way. And if you're voting early, you're going to get, and you have it electronically connected, you can give away all that information to people that want to cheat. Think about it. In the old days, they used to cheat the same way. They'd have people stationed in the parking lots, counting the people coming in and tracking the people coming in. And they'd get on the phone and they'd call and say, hey, we got a big turnout in this and it looks like it's going the wrong way. We need more ballots in that. So they used to cheat that way too. We just made it easier by having everything connected. It's easier for them to cheat. So that type of cheating is not new. People have been stuffing ballots forever. I was in West Virginia talking to a legislator, and I was talking about how I wanted the control to go back to the local counties. And he said, no, we don't trust the counties. There's some really corrupt unions in some of our counties. And they sit outside the polling place with fifths of vodka and fifth of bourbon. And they tell people, bring your ballot out here. Show us how you voted. We'll trade you. They say, we don't want local control.
So Rob, I know your People's Lobby, election integrity is like the primary deal. So where are you guys at with this, or has your group discussed that, or are you feeling like? I know you're big on the machines. I mean, I
think we've talked about everything. It's a matter of it's like I think a lot of the people that question whether election integrity is real or not, whether there's something to worry about, it's because they just don't feel like they have hard evidence that they can say, okay, here it is. This I can understand. This I can make sense of. It's like when you were going through the churn rates, right, in St. Charles County. I was watching some of the comments up there, and one of them was, well, is that just people moving within St. Charles County? Are they just moving from one house to another?
Nope, that wouldn't churn.
That wouldn't churn, right? They're moving in or out of the county because they're on the voter rolls in that county. If they change address, that doesn't mean they're leaving the voter roll.
Right.
Correct. Right. But I mean, I think that's really the biggest issue, is getting people to recognize that it is real. And I would say it's real, but again, I try to make it simple. I think it's real just based on the fact that you have both party leadership say the electronic voting machines are complicit, but they don't take the electronic voting machines out. They just, Obama said it, Trump and his team said it in 2020, and neither no legislatures in the country want to take these machines out of the game. It seems odd to me, right? Because it would just give confidence back to voters. But for some reason, there's like this attachment to machine voting. I understand what you're saying about the voter rolls. That makes perfect sense to me, because that does give you the cushion. Wasn't there several counties in the country where they had more voters than people registered?
Oh, all over the place. Oregon has 105% of their people registered. Kentucky has 105% of their people. There are like half a dozen states that have, as a state, they even have more people registered. And in Missouri, I showed those graphs. I put them online. You have many counties where you have more people in the rolls than you have people. Yeah, it's right here in Missouri. And that's, if you had a local clerk doing it, there's no way that she would allow that to happen. She would be, she would know who's there or not there. That's the key problem.
Dr. Frank, real fast, has it always been that way, where the state has total control? Because I agree with you that you want to decentralize power, so you want your counties to run their elections. That again makes perfect sense to me. You're saying it's not been this way the whole time?
No. And in fact, I remember the day that I walked into Shane Scholler's office. We walked through the room that was full of all the deeds. Have you ever noticed that all the deeds are on paper? Interesting. And then, but on one wall, the wall is full of all the deeds, and on the other wall were all the old precinct books. Because we used to have a book for every precinct. It wasn't central controlled. It was controlled locally at the county. And what would happen is a Republican and a Democrat would take that book and they would knock on their 500 doors for their 1,000 people. And they would confirm within every 2 years, every residence was confirmed. That was the job of the precinct captain. And they kept the rolls clean that way. What happened is in 1993, Congress passed the Motor Voter Act. It's called NVRA, National Voter Registration Act. And the federal government started giving money to states to encourage them to automatically register people. And I was showing graphs I could bring up a graph of your state, but I can describe it pretty good. Up until 93, you had about 70% of your people registered, active registrants population. As soon as NVRA happened, your voter rolls started growing, and they're inflated now. It's about 20% inflated. You have about 1 in 4 people in your rolls that don't belong there. So that's when it kind of started, and it took place over about 10 to 15 years. Now they're just always dirty.
How do they get those votes in, Dr. Frank? So, for example, if you're saying that there are 20% of the voter rolls are not legitimate,
right?
How do they get those? How do they turn that into votes?
Well, like if I want to cheat your election, what I just have to have a copy of the voter rolls, and I'll look at the people who don't live there anymore. There's simple ways for me to check that. I can run it across, it's called the NCOA, post office records, and I can show who doesn't live here. Commercial printers do this all the time. If you give them a list of, if you want to do a mail out and you give a list of addresses, they'll run the NCOA against it first to make sure that you don't have a bunch of bad addresses. Campaigns do this all the time to save money. They run the voter rolls opposite the post office records and find a whole bunch of people that don't belong there. So it's not rocket science. And so that's a simple way to show. When I did this, and Amy's watched me do this a couple times, it's not just, you got to convince people that it's real, but you also got to motivate them. And I've learned a really very effective trick, and Amy's witnessed it, and Teresa, who's on this call, she's my scheduler in Washington and in Oregon. I like to show the crowd the voter rolls, and I can do that. I can bring up your voter rolls. Maybe we should even try it here. I don't know. I left it live, and we can bring it up, and then I'll say, somebody in the audience, give me your address, and they'll just a random address, and we'll pull it up, and you can look at the voting history at that address, and lo and behold, there's somebody still at their address who doesn't live there anymore. Or I'll say, look at your neighbors. If I'm right on a page in Excel, if there's like 20 records and I'm right that 1 in 4 don't belong there, we ought to be able to find people, five people on that page that don't belong. And it never fails. We find them all the time, everywhere. And so I've learned that's a really good way to motivate people too, because then they realize this isn't just some abstract idea. There's some churn going on out there in cyberspace. It's actually in their own neighborhood, and that motivates them.
But how do they get the votes in? That's what I understand. So if they have those extra votes, because somebody has to get that vote in, they have to turn it in, they have to mail it in, they have to go to a precinct and vote. How does that happen?
There's a couple ways that happens. So there's the industrial scale way that happens. And that's like the example of the 1 million fake IDs and 1 million fake ballots.
Right.
Outside of Detroit, or the 200,000 come from New York, or the 1 million outside of Maricopa. So that's the industrial scale. And those are put in, they're ordered as absentee ballots and then stuffed through the mail. That's how the industrial scale happens. There's another way, and we have a conviction on this. You can look it up. It's in the media. LODI, Lodi, California. We caught the city councilman there, Shakir Khan, with 70 ballots on his kitchen table. And what he was doing is he had the copy of the voter rolls, and he had the list, the voter records, who was voting in real time. And he just picked out 70 people who hadn't voted, and he was printing ballots for them and filling them out on his kitchen table. We have a conviction. He has a convicted 70 counts, felony counts, and he's in prison now. So there's there's like the industrial scale, there's the local scale, and then there's another kind of in-between scale. And I'll give you an example of that. The League of Women Voters set up a booth in the Central Square on the UCLA campus back in 2020, and they were offering $200 a ballot for the kids. So the kids would go back to their dorm rooms and order an absentee ballot. It would come in. They $200 buys a lot of beer and pizza for a college kid.
Yeah, that's a pretty good buy.
And so, and they were collecting piles and boxes of ballots. And then, of course, they can vote those ballots, and those they get turned in by mail, or they get turned in drop boxes, that kind of thing. So there's different scales of voting. Another way that's kind of in that in-between scale is, let's say you're a homeless person and you know when the election's happening, and you know beforehand that a lot of ballots are being mailed for absentee ballots. You just start checking the mailboxes, and you pull them out and collect them and go down to some of these NGOs that are crooks. And you can get $50 a ballot. The going rate's $50 a ballot nationally. So, and if you want to buy your election, it's cheaper to buy a few ballots and stay in your basement than it is to campaign. So that's real as well. That movie 2000 Mules, you remember that movie?
Oh yeah, the geolocation.
Exactly. And what I had breakfast with Dinesh D'Souza about a week after that came out, and I was really mad at him, actually. I told him, I said, I had lunch with the guy who gave you the $4 million to buy that geolocator data, and he was expecting you to expose a lot more than you did. Because if you think about that geolocator data, you know where the mule lives. You know when he got up and went to his car. You know where he drove to pick up the ballots. You know where he went to each drop box and dropped them off and went back for another load. You have the geolocator data for the whole process, and you didn't show it in the movie. Why didn't you? I mean, in other words, you're asking, how does it happen? I'm telling you how it happened. Okay, and he said he wanted to, but that movie was produced by Salem Media, and you remember what the climate was like in 2022. Everybody was getting sued, and also, there's issues with putting real evidence in public for an ongoing investigation. In other words, if there's an investigation into this mule who's picking up ballots at point A and dropping them off at B, C, D, and E, well, the sheriffs can go arrest that guy. And there were a lot of arrests, but it's sort of like a drug arrest. You really want to arrest the users? Yeah, you want to get to the kingpins. So they didn't spend a lot of time arresting the mules, but they would go to the places. Now, in Maricopa, the central place where they were distributing ballots from was in a hotel ballroom. By the way, this is a matter of public record. You can find it in the newspapers. It was in a pub, and a federal agent stumbled upon it, and we have pictures of it. So, but they're temporary. So if you have the geolocator data today, it doesn't help you because it's been moved since then. But that's real. So you were asking, I kind of gave you a range of answers. Your question is a good answer, but there isn't one answer, if that makes sense.
Yep, I get it.
Yep.
Okay. So where are you at with that? So we got the question?
We have somebody from Clinton County. I don't know if you have that county available, but maybe we could pull that county up. And
all right, I'll bring it up. I'll close St. Charles because it's a big one. It's hogging my computer.
That'll let the people see that it's not just the big counties that have the churn. And
that's okay. Good for you. I like that attitude. Clinton. Yeah, you notice I didn't cherry pick this. Okay, here we go. Yes. All right. So we're going to share screen again. Let's see here. I'll get that going. Oh, wait till you see Clinton. I'm so glad that I have the ability to show this because it just changes the whole discussion. You ready, Mike? All right. Here's Clinton County. Oh. Shift F. Okay, here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
What's the churn? What's the 9-year churn in Clinton?
Wow, 131%. So let's look at the percentages for the year. So is it 52?
For the last 2 years, it was about 22%. So it looks like per year it's around 20% average.
What's that 52%?
That's the 3.5 years
Gotcha.
from June of 2017 to December of 2020. And, you know, look, here's their population. Their population isn't changing much, right? Their population grew by 8.4%, but their voter rolls churned by 131. That's a problem. And I didn't pick Clinton, somebody else did. And if you don't think I'm right, let's just look at the list. Here's who was removed. Here was who's added. Here's the 2020 rolls. Here was removed. Here's who's added. I've got the hard evidence. This is real. And I can look up anybody's address. You know, we were talking about doing this a minute ago. We can just look up.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was going to say, go back to it. So if you asked your county clerk, how many people
Oops, sorry. I'll
did
get
he
that
or
back.
did he or she add or remove?
Yes.
They're not going to say, in 3 years, I
removed 3,200 people and added
4,300. You
Yeah.
feel that number is far too inflated?
Yeah, I've done this multiple times with clerks. One time I was in a small county in Nebraska, Hamilton County, I think it's called. They have 8,000 people in their voter rolls, and in front of her commissioners and the sheriff, I wasn't trying to embarrass her, but I just said, how many people did you add and remove? And she says, oh, my deputy and I work really hard at it. We remove about a dozen a month. And I said, okay. So in other words, if you remove a dozen, add a dozen, you multiply that over the year, it's like 150 to 200 people a year. Yeah, right. She says, that's about right. That's about right. And I said, what if I told you that last year alone, you removed and added 1,000 people? And she's like, no, that's impossible. I'm the one who control my voter rolls. So I had printed it out. And I said, here's the list of everybody that got added and removed last year. They don't know. And it's not because they're evil or bad. It's because they don't have the rolls. They only know what they do when they interact with it. The rolls are out in the cloud somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're adding and removing names. Now, like this person in Clinton, look, she would have said, oh, we have 14,000.
Yeah, and then she just goes to 15. It all seems pretty
looks
benign.
normal to
15. So looking at it, she would think, yeah, it's pretty normal. It's pretty.
Yeah, she knows she's adding a few hundred every year. Okay, so it was 15,300, 15,700, 15,800. Okay, 15,900. Okay, they cleaned it up a little bit. 15,600. Okay, so, but that's not what's happening. It went down 2,000 and up 1,600. That in that period of time, you know,
and that was in 2 years. Was that a 2 year 24?
That was 1.5 years.
1.5 years. So, do you know? This is a random question. On average, like, is there any kind of common statistic? You know, how much they should?
Yes, there is a common statistic.
Okay, like
it's
on average, you should expect.
On average, in America, 9% of people move per year.
9% of the people.
But 6% of that stay within their own county.
Okay.
So to have 3% would be reasonable.
Okay. So if you had a 3% in and out, perfectly normal, fine. But once you start increasing and going, you're looking at something suspicious.
Go ahead, double it. Let's say it's 6%. Let's say 3% moved out and 3% moved in. So you have a 6% churn. Do that in 9 years. That's a 50% churn. No, they're 130.
Okay.
It's way too much.
Okay.
And I've sat down with sheriffs before, because I meet with sheriffs, as you know, and I show them the list of names. And they're like, the sheriff won't even know any of these people. Because I was with the sheriff one time in Oregon, and he said, Dr. Frank, I get a list every month of who's moved in and who's moved out. He says, it's nothing like what you're saying. It's a very small number. I said, I agree. And he says, so I don't believe that this is true. And I said, so I printed out the list. And he's like, I don't know who any of these people are. I've never seen these names before. Because the sheriff is looking at the people who live there, the residents that live there. And he's not looking at the voter rolls. The voter rolls are adding and removing people at a much higher rate.
Okay, so it looks like Brenda is asking about Perry County. I don't know if that's a big county or small county.
Perry?
Perry, Perry.
Okay.
We would like to look at Perry County.
See, isn't this fun? I'm so glad I could do this. If I hadn't been calculating all day, I wouldn't have this ready. All right, here we go. Perry County. Oh, yep, there it is. I see it. It's loading quickly, so it's a smaller county. That's good.
Okay,
stuff.
good.
All right. All right, I've got it. All right, so let's yeah, I'm looking at it. All right, here we go. So I got to share my screen again. Here we go. Share screen. Here we go. All right, I'm ready.
All right. Here we go, Brenda. Yep.
Close
Perry
it.
County.
Here we go. Churn there is 85%.
It's one of the lower ones. It's not great, but it's bad, but it's not as bad.
Their population has gone down 2%.
Okay.
In other words, in 2017, they had a population of about a voting age population.
Yeah, voting age, right.
14,900, closer to 15,000. Let's just say 15,000. And now it's 14,600. So they've actually gone down 2%.
Okay.
They're not a growing community. Remember the other person made an excuse. Oh yeah, St. Charles is growing. It's a big. No. Here's when it's losing people. It's only lost 2% in that time. So if this had said 4%, if this had said 2%, I'd say okay, that's just
normal. Yeah,
that's the people who moved out. But it's obviously there, and you could, even if you said 3% moving in and moving out, that would be 6. That would still only be 50%. So it's about a factor of 2 more than it's supposed to be. Who's doing that work? Who's doing that adding and removing? Who's doing that? It isn't your local clerk.
But who is doing it? No, that's what, so we've got the state database, but it's not somebody up at the Secretary of State's office that's doing this. This is coming from AWEB, or where's it coming from?
The voter rolls in your state used to be managed by ERIC, E-R-I-C.
Okay, and I thought I saw a comment, it might have been Jim, that said they're switching.
They are switching away from ERIC.
And we don't know.
E-R-I-C, exactly. So E-R-I-C stands for Election Registration Information Center. And it started by Soros back in 2006 or 7, somewhere right in there. And what it grew to about 32 states. 32 states all gave all the voter records, all the driver's licenses, social security records to an outside agency known as ERIC, E-R-I-C. And the promise or the intent of it was, we'll have multiple states, we'll compare state to state, and we'll tell you who to take out of your rolls, because John moved from
so if I move to Nebraska, then Nebraska will communicate with. See, this is where it gets. This is no good. And then we got to communicate with Africa. Drives me crazy. Okay.
And so that was what Eric was supposed to do, right? Eric was to say. So your Secretary of State said, "What a good idea! You can clean our voter rolls for us." So they're giving the voter rolls to an outside agency and actually paying for that service.
Okay.
Well, as it turns out, I've done the analysis across the country. The ERIC states, the 32 states that were involved, have the dirtiest voter rolls in the whole country. And I can explain that in a second why, but let me finish that sentence. But what happened is last year and the year before, 12 states got out of ERIC because it wasn't doing what it said it was doing. And this is what actually happens. The Secretary of State, or one of his minions, gives the rolls to ERIC. And then ERIC looks at them and compares state to state, and they come back to your state with a list of everybody who should be removed and a list of everybody who should be added. What do you mean added? Well, we noticed that a bunch of people moved into your state too, and you don't have them in your rolls. So in other words, ERIC is actually helping to inflate the rolls. Now, the Secretary of State in most states who are using ERIC made a policy decision. They said, okay, Eric has given us a list to add and a list to remove. We're not going to do any of the removals. We're only going to do the adds.
Why?
And then, well, I'll give that answer.
Okay.
Let me finish this sentence and I'll give that answer. And that's why your rolls started inflating.
Right, increasing because you see it on the graph.
Because you're only adding and not cleaning.
Okay.
And then you've got added all these other ways to add, driver's licenses, welfare, et cetera, et cetera. So let me answer your second question, which is spot on, with an example. Let's say that you go to your clerk and you say, My next door neighbor moved away and he moved to Texas. I think you should take him out of the rolls. What will your clerk say? Your clerk will say, you have to fill out this form and you have to get affidavits and blah, blah, blah. But actually they won't do that. They'll just say, sorry, we don't do that. Talk to the state. What the state has done is they've put a policy in place. Rather than addressing the removals, they have a policy. The policy is they want to have an automatic system that removes them. So if you miss 2 elections, then they check, are you still there? So in other words, even if you move away, they're going to let you stay in the rolls for at least 2 more federal elections by policy choice. They've made that policy choice. I think it's a bad choice because it guarantees that you have dirty voter rolls all the time. Now, because of this and because of all the attention we've been bringing to this nationally across the country, the EAC, that's the Election Assistance Commission, that's a federal agency that sort of regulates elections around the country. At least that's what it was established for. They last year published guidance for states. And later in 2024, I guess I'm in 2026 now, but 2 years ago, they published guidance for states. And they said, you don't have to contact a voter to remove them. Most of the states have been saying we can't remove somebody unless we contact them. They said you don't have to, all you have to do is compare your voter rolls to the NCOA or the PCOA, which are standard devices that printers and commercial printers and mail houses use all the time. Think about it. If you're going to move and you go to the post office and fill out a form saying you're moving to Texas, you signed a form. You've already said you're moving. They don't need to contact you again. They can remove you. And so states have that legal ability, but states have chosen not to do that. That is a huge red flag right there. Why wouldn't the state want clean voter rolls? That's an important question. And the answer is it keeps the establishment in power. And anybody who cleans voter rolls, there's another issue too. Anybody who cleans voter rolls, the ACLU comes after them and sues them. Oh, you're going to disenfranchise somebody. And I know this because Judicial Watch has been going around the country suing states that aren't complying with the law in terms of cleaning. For example, in Kentucky in 2019, Judicial Watch sued Kentucky, proved in court they weren't cleaning their rolls properly, and they cleaned a bunch of their rolls. They took several 100,000 people out of the rolls. 6 months later, the ACLU countersued, and they had to put them back in again. People that you can prove don't belong there and shouldn't be there are being forced to be put back in there. It's crazy. What state was I in? It might have been Oregon. Teresa was with me, I think, when this happened. There was a clerk there, or we were finding dead voters in the voter rolls, and we brought the attention to the clerk. And she says, yeah, I know about those. Maybe that was here in Missouri recently. But the state required me to put them back in because you're not allowed to remove people unless you complete all these forms. So the clerk knows these people are dead. They know that, and they're not allowed to remove them. So in other words, there are all these roadblocks put there by policy that keep your voter rolls dirty. One of the arguments the clerks will make is they say, well, we have to have those roadblocks because Amy might get mad at Mike one day and run down and say he's dead, take him out of the voter rolls, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to have some kind of procedure. And I don't deny that. You need to have, but for the clerks to basically say, well, we're not allowed to, the state has to do it. That's not acceptable to me. You know, that's the nice thing. Texas County wants to see theirs now, huh?
That's good.
By the way, what I love showing people their own data. And when I bring up Texas County this time, let's look up, let me point out some of the dirt. You can see with your own eyes. It doesn't take a computer geek to figure it out. This one's loading quickly too, so it's a small county. All right, and you guys will see what I'm talking about. Oh yeah. You're gonna like it. Oh, it's fun to be me. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Share my screen. There we go. Share screen.
Can you imagine doing this, Rob?
I had to do something like this in my previous life. I had to analyze data all day long, and it drove me crazy. He seems more happy to do it than I did.
Well, good. Put your eyes on. Let's figure this out.
I'm ready to share.
I had to predict out shoe sales for a year.
Sure.
Yes.
But yeah, not your favorite
No,
favorite task, huh?
I love Excel.
Can you see it okay?
115.9%.
There it is. And why this is a number I hadn't been mentioning before, but this is an interesting number too. I know everybody who voted in the 2020 election. They're listed in this rolls, in the December 2020 rolls, who voted. And guess what? 11% of them are no longer in the rolls. So only 6 years later, 5 years later, just a little more than 5 years,
Right.
1 in 9 of the people who voted in your county are no longer there. That's what that number is. I track that number too, because remember, the way the cheat happens is they're using names and then taking them off. And it's kind of a natural cleanup mechanism.
So am I seeing that right? That 2020 has the 43.5% and 2024 has the 7.9. So the highest are your presidential election years? Am I reading that right?
So yeah, 2024, this was right before the election.
Okay.
And then this is in 2024, and this is March of 2026.
Okay.
So I don't know which one you're looking at. Yeah. But here, what I'm saying removed, what I'm doing is I'm comparing everybody in this rolls to this rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this rolls, it says who voted in the 2020 election. So I know that list. It's 11,315 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, only 10,050 of them are in this list. So 11% of them have been removed. That's just a fact. I can show you the list. But to show the dirt, I didn't really spend a minute on that. Let me just kind of
Let's see.
zoom in just so people can see what it looks like. So I'm not saying, I'm just going to pick the very first row here. And notice that they're at this one address. What I've done is let me tell you what this is. I've taken the most recent copy of the rolls, and then I've added back in everybody who was removed. So I have a master list at every residence. I've sorted it by residence. So, here's a residence. Vahe, Emily, and Rachel live at 10701 Bendavis Drive. And, but these people have a different name than that person. Okay. Now, it could be perfectly legitimate. These Emily and Rachel might be roommates or something. I don't know. Could be a friend of the family. I don't know. But I noticed that there are different last names at that address, and that this person was taken off the rolls in 2024, and this person is still there, and they have a different last name. Now, if we go over and knock on the door and say, hey, yeah, I'd like to talk to Emily, she'll say, oh, she doesn't live here anymore. Well, can I talk to Rachel then? Well, she doesn't live here anymore either. You watch. I bet you they're not supposed to be on the rolls anymore either. So that's an example. Here's an address where we have three different last names at the same address. Looks like these two people are still active. I don't know who they are, but the reason I sort it this way is it makes things show up that are questionable. Here's an interesting residence where you got 3 active people and 1 inactive out of 4 at the same address. So we at least know this person probably shouldn't be in the rolls anymore. What this is their status in the rolls, and this is if they voted or not. In other words, I track all that. I should have kept this frozen. Sorry, didn't do that. View, freeze panes. There we go. So in other words, I can look up. In fact, the person who's there, if she gives us her address, we can look it up.
Yeah, whoever brought that up with Texas County, if you want to share your address, we will look you up.
Exactly, and you've seen me do this, Amy.
Yeah, if you're comfortable sharing your address.
And when I look people up, they well, wait a minute, those are my neighbors, and they don't live there anymore. It's as I'm looking at it, I don't know your neighbors, I don't know your own neighborhood, I don't know how to explain this, but you do. And so this is what I was saying earlier, Rob. One of the ways we can motivate people to get involved is I show them their own neighborhoods. Then it isn't, well, Dr. Frank came to town and he said this and that and the other thing. It's like, I looked at the voter rolls in my own neighborhood and they're dirty like this. It motivates the people.
Well, she didn't give us an address, but somebody gave us an address. And this is in Texas County, the 15660 Boiling Springs Road.
Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to control find it. Let's see. Find next.
There it is. Okay. Oh,
No, it's not in there. So
Well, it may
maybe
not-
it was a different county.
may not be Texas County.
Yeah, because I've only loaded Texas County here. Yeah, but anyway, but you get the idea. And I think it really helps people to. Well, here's an interesting address in Texas County. Everybody's active
Mm-hmm.
in the rolls.
But
Only
that last
people-
one,
Only 2 people are voting the whole time.
yeah.
This person was registered to vote in 1978 and never voted,
But active all those years.
but they're active so there you go.
So that
That's
would be a name that an agency or group could look at and then throw in a ballot for.
They could
because they're
step a ballot for that
active,
person.
They just need to fill out that name
Yes.
and
And how would you know?
And no one
Yeah.
would know. No one
Larry
would
and
know.
Tammy Wade don't go onto the rolls and check like I do right here.
Right, right.
They don't run down and say, "Hey, is there anybody else voting at my house?" But there's somebody registered at that house, and interestingly, they were registered in 1978.
Right. So it's very clear they're ripe for harvest.
yes,
Right there.
right there. That's a great example. So people can see I'm not making this up. This is real.
So.
Here's an address with 3 different last names at it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they've all only voted one time each in the history I have over to the right. But what's interesting, notice, is that only one of them is active right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably the current resident. And these people are probably past residents. But you notice in 2021 and 2020, they were all active simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't all live there simultaneously. You can see, this was the person who was there probably first. They were registered in 2015. Oh, actually, this person, probably the one who was there first, registered in 2005, only voted one time. Then this person voted in 2020, only voted one time in 2020, and has been made inactive after that. And this person only voted one time in 2016 and never voted again.
But again,
and he's still
active
in the rolls.
could be harvested.
So, in other words, this is right here in front of your face. I'm not making this up. The voter rolls are really dirty. And I just gave multiple examples. Oh, here's another one. How many times do I need to do this? In other words, if I just keep scrolling down the page, you're going to see all kinds of dirty voter rolls. And I don't even have to search very hard. So you don't have to be a computer geek to do this. You just got to be willing to look at your own neighborhood.
Hey, Dr. Frank, could we
Yeah.
try that address again? I think you had highlighted the name address instead of the street number when you were searching for that one.
Oh,
You want me? Do you have it handy there, Mike?
Yeah, I'll pull it back up here.
It was. I thought it said 1156660
15660.
Boiling Springs Road.
Yep.
How about maybe it's put in differently? Let me. Oh, there it is.
Oh, all right. Let's see.
Okay, so here we are. I didn't pick this residence. Somebody else did. Let's make this big so everybody can see. I'm going to zoom in.
Okay.
660.
Right up the top. Yeah, it's right there. Looks like Thomas or Kaylee Thomas, right? Or no?
15660. 15660. 15. I lost it. Hang on. When I made it larger, I lost it. There it is. Close. 15660.
Okay.
It's only one person at that.
Mary
So it's
Elizabeth.
Mary Foster.
Okay.
Oh, I see what happened. I got so excited because I looked at her next door neighbors. But it's really not her next door neighbors. It's Boone Drive.
Yeah.
But we could look at her next door neighbors.
So Mary, that's who's on, I guess, asking.
Yes. And so what do we know about Mary? We know that she was 54 years old in 2020. We know that she's only been in the rolls since 22, 23, and 24, that she only voted one time in 2022, which makes sense because she wasn't in the rolls then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she probably moved into Texas County around 21 and got in the rolls, and here she is. And then she voted in 22. Good job. She didn't vote in 2024. Maybe she wasn't busy that day. I don't know. But she was only registered in October of 22. So that's right before the 22 election. Very good. What else do we know about Mary? She's lives in Lynch Township. She's an active voter. Sometimes they put party, but they didn't put party here. So I don't know what party she is. Some states give you the party. So
If that goes back that far, can I check mine? Because I moved.
Yes, you'd be a great one to check. You'd be a great one to check.
we can, is it in St. Charles?
It would have been in St. Charles County. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll have to open that one up. That takes a little while to open, but
That's a big
I closed it a minute ago. But the reason I got so excited a minute ago is because her residence looks perfectly fine to me, and looks like, this looks like these addresses are far apart, so this is probably out in the country is what I'm guessing. They make everything big in Texas, right? Everything's big. So she might know Thomas, her neighbor, and then 2 doors down, it looks like maybe. Does she know the Hambys and Delbert Cayley, who never voted ever, was registered in 1995 and never voted?
He's 89, and so he's
probably passed away. But notice
be
he was
removed.
still active in the rolls in
he needs to
2017.
be. Yeah.
Even though he never voted, he was still active in the rolls in 2017. So that's the voter rolls were dirty. And how many years were they dirty? Many years. I think I lost my place, didn't I? Yeah, here we go. Control find again. Yeah, there she is. So, in other words, she would know. She might even know. She might remember Delbert. Maybe they went for nice walks together in the country, and he may be passed away now. I don't know, but he's out of the rolls since. So, I didn't choose that, yet we found a dirty voter roll. And actually, if you're in the party and you want to register somebody to vote, that looks like a good address to go to, because nobody's registered there currently. A couple of doors down, look at this residence, right? Statins, Jones, get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different names have been registered at that address in the last 9 years. And notice that they were all active, except for one of them were all active.
Oh, so he said Delbert performed my wedding in 2003. That's one thing I think it's, when you bring it back local, everybody, you know the history, or you can find someone who's lived there all their life. And then you can say, hey, do you know what the history is of this residence? And I think that's the way we can find.
It makes my point.
Yeah.
If someone walked up to the polls and said, hey, I'm Delbert so-and-so, I want to vote, she'd look at him and say,
no,
you ain't Delbert. And
yeah.
And that's why we run our elections locally, and that's why they run them locally in Europe too. And, small precincts, and everybody votes. They get a registration card. Do you want me to try again on the St. Charles thing?
I would love you to see it, because I'd be curious, because I did not vote in. I voted for Trump in Florida in 2020.
Gotcha. So I'm loading. It's going to take a minute to load.
Okay.
But this is when people say to me that they think I'm a conspiracy theorist, that what I'm saying is not. Everything I've told you, I have firsthand knowledge of. You notice I tell you stories of my firsthand experiences in your state. I'm showing you your data straight from the Secretary of State's office. So if you don't believe me, you can go check yourself and find out that I'm not lying to you. So I'm not a wackadoodle. I'm a scientist. I'm an analytical guy. I say what I know. And when I speculate, I'll tell you when I'm speculating. But when I'm not speculating, this is one of the cases I ain't speculating. Somebody the other day was telling me that there's a gal in your state that's not very happy with me because she's about the machines, and she thinks that we should be focusing on the machines. And she thinks I'm wrong. Okay. And I told Mike and Amy, I'm happy to be wrong. If you can prove me wrong, I will admit it immediately that I'm wrong, because scientists do that. We're used to being wrong, and we do experiments. We're wrong. We learn. It's sort of our mindset. It's not an insult on your intellect if you're wrong. It means you're going to learn something. So that's why we.
So this is a good question that Tammy's got up. So remember we talked about how people interpret what the machines are doing.
Yes.
She's asking, and that our machines cannot be flipped here in Missouri.
We're tabulators in Missouri.
Yeah. So we're not flipping anything.
All right, I need to do
Yes.
this.
Where's your prop?
Exactly. So I have another prop. Everybody has seen this graph before, right?
Yep. That was
Oh, yeah.
the
Where it goes up,
blue and the
jumps
red.
up.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is not flipping ballots. That's adding ballots. That graph is from Michigan. It's 156,000 ballots. And what it is at 11 o'clock at night on election night, the election turned off. Remember, in multiple states, about half a dozen states. And when the election turned back on again, suddenly Michigan had 156,000 more people in their voter rolls who all voted. And 4 hours later, I've seen the video, I testified in this lawsuit. 4 hours later, the truck backed up to the building with a pallet of perfect ballots, okay, that matched that 156,000. So the machine didn't flip the ballots. The machine added names, and it wasn't necessarily the tabulator that added the names. It was the EMS, the election management system. There's multiple aspects to the elections. When I'm a computer guy, so when I say machine, I'm not just talking about the tabulator. I'm talking about the whole, anything that's electronic is a machine to me. All right, I think St. Charles, did I answer that question okay, Amy?
Yeah, I think that just so we're clear, I think terminology matters.
And you wanted to see my prop, I could tell.
Here's the prop.
This is a great prop. I always tell people, they're always saying, oh, Dr. Frank, we're going to do a recount to check the election. Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost you. There we go.
Mike's doing something in the background. They say, oh, Dr. Frank, oh, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to make me feel strong. Good job, Mike. So I always tell people, it doesn't matter how many times you count the cash in the register. What matters is how many of the bills are counterfeit. So a lot of people say, well, we want to do a recount. We're going to find fraud. We're going to do a recount. And I'm like, it doesn't help you to count the same stuffed ballots over and over again. What matters is you need to audit the voters. You've got 100 ballots in front of you. Can you talk to 100 people who all will say they voted? What if you talk to 100 of them and 10 of them say they didn't vote? What if you find that 10 of them are dead and yet you have a ballot from them? That, in other words, you need to audit the voters. That's how you can find fraud. The machines do flip ballots. We have evidence of that in some cases, but that's rare. But we have all over the country, including Missouri, tens of thousands of ballots that have been stuffed. The person whose name it's assigned to, they did not cast that ballot. They're dead. They moved away. Somebody else did it. It says 2,000 mules, that kind of stuff. How about that? Did I answer that clearly?
Yes, that was good.
Okay.
Right. So St. Charles must be loaded now by now. Yep, it's up. Okay, right. So let's see. When did you leave? Oh, I should have asked you another question. When did you leave there?
I left in 2000 and the address I'm going to give you, I left in 2018.
Ooh, so you will be in this thing because you'll be in the 2017 one. Okay. All right. So control find. Okay, I'm ready. What's your address?
303 Yard, Y-A-R-D Drive. It was in Lake St. Louis.
Rachel Carter.
Yeah, that's the one who got the house and the money.
Tough. I'm telling you, life is tough.
Okay. I didn't share my screen yet. Let's share it here so you can see it. Okay. Sorry about that, Rob. All right. Okay. So this is who was in. Here we go. 27. Okay. So, I forgot to freeze the top pane. Hang on here. Okay. So we need the legend. Normally I do this automatically, but I forgot to do that on this automation run. Okay. Here we go. Control find. Get back to this again. Close. Okay. So she was actually inactive in 2017 in the rolls, and you're not even shown in the 2017 rolls.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's the other one? Lewis. Is that my address?
303 Yard Drive.
What year?
They're in the rolls.
They're just in the rolls. 2017.
They were on the Lewis was on the rolls from my address in
Active,
2017.
Yes.
active.
In 2017, active, yeah.
Wow.
And voted. I mean, what? Yeah.
Did she sell the house right away after you guys split up?
No, well, it was in 2018.
Oh,
Well, the 2017 rolls have them in it. So there you go. So, so too bad I didn't have.
Can you check out one more?
can you what?
Check out one more? Check out another address. 24 Serviceberry.
Serviceberry?
Yeah. 24 Serviceberry. And I think that was in
Serviceberry. I see it.
There it is.
There's Robbie Lee.
Okay. Where does that have me there?
Is your name Robbie?
It is. That's me.
My dad's name is Jack, but his name is Jackie.
What does that show at that address?
Did
It shows you were there at 2020.
Did you vote in 2020?
I voted in 2020 from Florida.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
He did
Okay.
not vote from that address in 2020. So your name was not stolen
Okay.
for that election.
Good.
But there's another person who is registered active at that address. Stanislav.
No Stanislavs.
Well, the one above, Safina Stanifa, 25 or 24. Yeah.
Yeah. Stanislav was registered at that day at that address at 2019, and Safina was registered in 2024 at that address. Maybe they got married, and that's why she got added. But he was registered at that address at 2019. But you were living there at 2020.
I was living there in 2019.
Oh, did you?
I married my wife in October. We moved to Florida in 2020, so I would have been registered there in 2019.
Okay, so the best we could do on this record then would be to say that the voter rolls were dirty. Because this is December of 2020. So you were active in the rolls in December of 2020.
Which is not possible.
At that address.
Right.
Which is not possible. I lived in Florida in 2020. All of it.
Right.
There you go. So that's a dirty voter roll.
Which is what you said they do, right? They keep me in that area for 2 years after I leave.
For some reason, they got you out right away. So good job. But
yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, because Missouri does that too.
Sometimes they're not good about it. Yeah.
Like
this address looks suspicious. So they got all these people that are still active, and they're at different last names, and only some of them are voting. So I bet you that's the same kind of thing. But I think you get the idea.
Yes.
Here's an address with a lot of last names at it. A lot of people, but probably dirty. I should be able to find 4 or 5 on every page. That's the point I'm making. Yeah. Have I done that enough? Have I tortured the people enough with that?
It looks a bit tedious. I mean, my eyes are I've seen it repeatedly now. So, and it's starting to look a little, but it looks kind of tedious. So my question I'll put out to the listeners is, are you willing to go through your neighborhood and look through those? Because I think we like to do a lot of complaining, but we don't always like to do the doing. Because that's what it would require, right?
Well, what I've been telling my teams to do is we put together these 7 steps teams, this, and I have a data person on the team. There are people that like this stuff, like me. And you give them this big complete sheet that's got all the information. And then when I say, what I want you to do is find 50 people in your community and just give them a small piece. You could even print it out on paper if you want. And just give it to them and say, we just want you to look at your own neighborhood, and we want you to mark what isn't right. Hey, that person's dead, but they're still in the rolls. Hey, that person's dead and they voted. Hey, that person moved to Texas and it says he voted. In other words, we'll find fraud, we'll find illegal voting, and we'll find dirty voter rolls. And then if you give that out to 50 people in your community, when they bring it back to you, not only have you found fraud and dirty voter rolls like we've been saying it is, you have 50 people in your community that are like, they know it's real. It's like evangelism. They know that the problem with the elections. And so it's easy to get those people then to come down to the county commissioner meeting. Well, not easy. Some people don't want to do it. But let's say that I was in Washington County, Oregon recently, and I was giving a presentation like this. And I looked up 3 addresses and about 100 people in the audience. And the very first one was a lady. She says, I wasn't in Washington County in 2020, just like Rob. I was in Southern California taking care of my mother. I didn't vote that year, but it showed that she voted. So the very first address I looked up, there's a case of fraud. All right. And then I looked up another one. Oh, that person's dead. And they voted. And then another one, a person who'd moved away, but they were still in the rolls. Well, that lady who said she hadn't voted the next week, the following week, she went and testified in front of the county commissioners and says, I know these voter rolls are fraudulent, and I know there's fraud in our election because I wasn't here and there was a ballot cast using my name. That is so much more powerful than having Dr. Frank come in and show graphs and show statistics. The citizens themselves find it. So the whole strategy that I do, I'm trying to build community. I'm trying to wake up the community, get the community to engage their elections. When you get the community awake and engaging, guess what they do? They also want to run their own elections. They also want to do hand counts. They also want to occupy the clerks tell me all the time, Dr. Frank, we can't get volunteers to do poll watching. Well, you know why? Let's give them some motivation. Let's show we got issues. If people know their issues, they'll want to pay attention. So anyway, that's kind of the idea.
Okay, so that's it. You got to do a team. And the idea is that by doing this and seeing this, then we can bring our elections back to local control.
Yeah.
Is that the goal?
That's the goal. Let's have local control of our elections. We need to take it back from the state. Now, if you say that to your county commissioners and your clerk, they'll say, oh no, we're not allowed to do that. And I understand because the clerks will say, oh, we're not allowed to. Dr. Frank event in Clackamas, 15 people signed up to look in their neighborhood. I know it's pretty exciting. I like giving the presentations this way. So I think that was Jackson County, wasn't it? Washington.
Oh,
Washington.
60 people. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a good strategy. It works well. What was I saying? Oh yeah. When the clerks say to you, oh, but the state says we have to do it this way, you have a good argument. You can say, no, we don't have to comply with any system that is illegal. We don't have to comply with any system that compromises our constitutional right to vote. We don't have to comply. So guess what? We're going to prove that your rolls are out of compliance, which are easy to do. You saw me just doing it. We're going to prove that your machines are out of compliance. You've got some gal, what was her name, who said the machines were out of compliance?
Yes, Allie.
Allie, your machines are out of compliance. They're out of compliance with federal law. Your voter rolls are out of compliance. So why are you using them? You don't have to use them. And by the way, Linda Rance has done this lovely study that shows you'll save a factor of 10 on your elections. So why wouldn't you want to save money, bring it back local control, and have integrity in your elections? And then the clerk says, well, the reason I don't want to do that is because I want to keep my job. I get it. Jim Kozlowski is with me. That lady, she's been 29 years. She doesn't want to change. She doesn't want to lose her pension. Okay, I get it. So we're not going to ask the clerk to stand. That's a mistake. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the county commissioners. And we're going to say, hey, county commissioners, how'd you like to save a factor of 10 on your elections? How'd you like to save all this money? Commissioners like the sound of that. Then the community is rising up and bringing fraud every week to their county commissioners meeting, reading into the public record. The community is rising up saying, we don't want this anymore. The commissioners want to save the money. The clerk is kind of in between. She'll just do what she's told. We're not asking her to lead. We're not trying to turn her into Tina Peters or something. Then here's the next step. If you only have one county doing it, like you did here in Missouri, you had Linda Ranch. You did, I think it's Osage County. You did a hand count. If you only have one county doing this, then the state comes down on them like a load of bricks, which is why you and I visited 7 or 8 counties. And hopefully I'll be back. We'll visit some more counties. In other words, if we get a bunch of counties to stand together, then there's not much the state can do, because you guys are basically saying your system's illegal. We've proven it's illegal. We're going to save a factor of 10. Thank you very much. Go away. That's the strategy.
Hey, Dr. Frank, we talked about the role of the commissioners and that before. Camden County is one that has one of the best county commissioners, and they're a very active group down there. So that's the only reason I'm asking if maybe we could show one more county. I know we're getting late here into the.
I'd be curious about Franklin County too.
I was looking at screens.
Which county, Rob?
Franklin, I'd be curious because I like Tim so much. I just
Yeah.
wonder what their voter rolls look like.
That's so funny.
Did you say Franklin?
This one is Camden.
What do you got there?
And then maybe we can look at Franklin.
My pen, and guess what?
You're going to be
The
in
ink
Franklin
ran
County
out.
tomorrow. That's a good segue for getting people out to Joe's Pizza tomorrow.
Yeah. If you're in
County.
Franklin or near Franklin, Moe's Pizza.
Moe's Pizza.
A landmark in Washington, Missouri.
That's right.
Okay, I'm ready to share there.
Okay, who is it?
Okay.
Is it Camden?
Yeah, this is Camden.
Okay, here we go, Camden. Let's see. Ooh, look at that big number.
Now, wait a minute. We did another county just a minute ago. They had about 11% or 12% of their people removed too.
Yeah.
Oh, and they have the same amount of churn too.
Ah.
Are you starting to get my message that I'm telling you it's centrally controlled? So that's why it's the same everywhere. Same problem everywhere.
You know what's interesting about that, Dr. Frank, is I talked to several when I was on radio. I'd have these candidates come in.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times they said on the radio. I think it was mentioned on the radio a few times, but they would find out that I was very interested in elections.
Yeah.
And at least two, but I think it was more than that. Two on air said that they were like 59.8 it was like 60-40 on their votes, and they didn't buy it, but they didn't want to say anything because they felt like they'd sound like it was sour grapes.
Yeah.
Or a loser. Yeah, but they didn't buy it. One of them was like adamant that said, I looked at my voting down in Joplin, and she said, and I had the support of the entire Joplin community, and she goes, and I lose at 60-40. She goes, it's just not possible. I spent so much time down in Joplin. I just thought it was odd. And like 60-40. She goes, yeah, it was dead on 60-40. And then I had somebody come in and say it again. I'm like, oh, this must be happening more than once.
Here's Franklin is 95% churn, 7% removed.
How's that in comparison to most of them? Because that's a very powerful political county.
I haven't done I just finished running them all. So I can't.
He hasn't crossed. Yeah.
I haven't made a table where I've collected at all, but tonight we've seen the lowest was around 80 and the most was around 135, something like that, right? That was
little lower. Yeah.
So so this one, in terms, it's at some of the worst churn, near the high range of churn. Oh, that was Camden. Yeah,
that's Camden. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Franklin was 95. I think you said.
Yeah, right. Franklin.
Franklin, yes, middle low. I agree, and same with this, middle low. Now, yes, that's another thing I didn't show people that I could show people that is interesting. Remember, when I say the counties are the same, this is what Mr. Lindell made a movie about with me, because what I was doing is I was going into a state and I was picking one county, and then from that one county I could predict the others. So this is Saline County, and let me just use this and then we'll jump to Camden and the other. This blue curve on top, can you see my mouse moving?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This blue curve on top is the population of Saline County in 2020 for the 2020 election. So it looks like they have a school there of some kind. It looks like maybe a college or something. And then they also have a peak of old people. So that's their population. The black curve is how many people registered to vote by age in Saline County for 2020. And the red curve is how many people voted by age. In other words, I have the list, right? I have the ages, so I can count up how many people there are of each age. And so if you look at the black curve and you look at the red curve, you're going to notice that they're very similar. They look strikingly similar. And if I make an assumption in the state of Missouri, and I assume that the ratio between the black and the red is the same in every county, if I assume it's the same in every county, then I predict this light blue curve that's underneath the red curve. And the correlation coefficient of that prediction is 0.996. That's preposterously high. It's crazy that I can predict. Now, when I say I'm predicting, imagine that I have a garbage can full of ping pong balls, and I take one of the ping pong balls out and it has a 1 on it, and I take out another ping pong ball and it has a 1 on it, and after I've taken out 50 ping pong balls and everyone has a 1 on it, and I say, I'm going to make a prediction. The next ping pong ball is going to have a 1 on it. That's not much of a prediction. The point is not that I'm making a prediction. The point is they're all the same. So, for example, I can scroll through here and you can see that every single county in your state.
Yeah, the charts are all the same. They mimic.
Every single one mimics. It doesn't matter whether it's a rural city, a rural county, a St. Charles, Franklin, big, small, green, purple, agricultural, industrial. They're all the same. They're all predictable. And that alone is a strong evidence that the elections are centrally controlled.
So you mentioned the coefficient is very high. You said it's preposterous. So what would be a more reasonable number?
Well, as a physicist, when I'm doing experiments, or as a scientist, a coefficient of 0.7 is really good. And, if you look in the scientific literature and you look at medical research and whatnot, correlation coefficients in the 0.7s that's a very high correlation. So for something to be as high as this means there's something wrong. There's something very wrong.
When you say something's wrong,
something ain't natural.
It's too high to actually occur. It's being manipulated.
Yes,
somehow.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I'm going to stop this because I want to bring up just the county that we were interested in. I'm trying to stop it from going. Did I stop it? Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay.
Was it Camden?
So we were talking about Franklin, for example.
Or Franklin, yeah.
Yes. Let me
So
bring that up.
So a perfect coalition would be a 0.1 or
would be
1.0.
In other words,
to give you an idea, that would be a perfect correlation.
So we're at 0.999, so we're almost perfect, which is
perfect.
a statistical anomaly.
And you can see that I can see the blue line is predicting the red line, right?
Yeah.
It's like preposterously accurate. You don't even need to run an election. I can tell you who's going to vote. And the other one was Camden. I just want you to realize I'm not picking and choosing, right?
Yeah, we'll look at Camden and then
there's Camden.
So Camden, same thing. Look at that.
0.999, right? And what was the other one? St. Charles.
St. Charles, we looked at
0.997. Not as perfect. But still, St. Charles has got everybody registered to vote, you notice?
Yeah.
And too high of a turnout over here. So St. Charles is a little different, but not much. It's still a ridiculously high turnout.
Okay.
If I could tell you that accurately on every election, who even needs to hold the election? Somebody had Texas County. So there's Texas County, 0.9. In other words, that's a nice small county, and I'm still able to predict it very, very accurately. And I know the names of every one of these people, so it's not like I'm making this up. Now, there's a funny story I can tell you. I was going to Montana one time, back in 2022, I think it was. And I was preparing this same, I have a set of graphs like this for every state, because it's how I proved that the elections were centrally controlled state by state. And so I was going to Montana and I didn't have my graphs ready yet. I was on the plane and I was preparing, and I think they have 59 counties. It's 56 or 59. Let's just pretend it's 59. I think it's 59. And I ran all of them. And as I was going through, I couldn't predict 3 of them. 3 of them were way off. They were like 0.6, 0.7, big differences. And I was, how can that be? Because I've been able to predict every other state. So I couldn't figure it out, and it was late, so I went to bed. Next day, I was presenting at this fairgrounds, about 500 people, and I said, hey, guys, I can predict all the other counties, but I can't predict these 3 counties. I don't know why, but when I figure it out, I'll post it online for you guys. This big old cowboy stood up, walked up to the microphone and said, nope, Dr. Frank, you see them 3 counties right there? They ain't got no internet.
There you go. So that's why it wasn't any. You couldn't predict it. There's no internet. Right. There's nothing.
I didn't know that ahead of time.
So the only 3 counties you haven't been able to predict in the whole country are the 3 counties that don't
have internet.
It's cows and sagebrush. And so it's not predictable because it's not centrally controlled. was in a county in northeastern Colorado called Phillips County. They have 1,500 people in that county, 1,500 voters. And I gave a presentation. We got some volunteers. We were starting to find some fraud. And I was meeting privately with the clerk. I love the clerks. I'm not trying to, I want to put them back in charge. And I was going over the rolls and she broke into tears. I felt so bad. She was a sweet lady. And she says, "Oh, Dr. Frank, can't we just get rid of all these machines?" She says, "I've been doing this for 30 years. 30 years ago, we had 1,500 voters. Today, we have 1,500 voters. 30 years ago, it only took me a week to get ready for the election. I printed the ballots. We put them out on the tables. The people came in and voted. We counted in my hand. We gave the results that night." She says, "Now it takes me weeks and weeks of preparation. The state's down my back on all these different issues. I have to hire out for technical people because I don't understand this stuff. They have to program all the machines. And it takes me weeks afterwards to get all the paperwork and the numbers turned in. And everybody hates me. Nobody trusts me. Can't we just get rid of these machines? I know how to run an election." That is a beautiful summation of the situation we're in right now. We used to have a simple system that anybody, high school kids, could run it. It was transparent. It was auditable. The people trusted it. Now we have a system so complicated that the clerks can't even run them themselves. They have to hire out the help. Nobody gets to look at anything. None of it's transparent. It's being run somewhere else out in the cloud. And that is a huge difference. Like Stalin said, it's enough that the people have an election, and enough that the people know there was an election, he said. Doesn't matter who casts the votes. What matters is who counts the votes. And if you're not counting your votes, okay, we're letting somebody else decide everything. We need to quit. We need to quit doing that. We need to take back local control.
Well, what's your thoughts, Rob?
I love it. I think I learned a lot. I didn't recognize the voter rolls and how, that adds a lot of clarity for me.
Yeah, because it's a complicated issue, right? Everybody's talking about all these things. I'm like, I don't understand how we.
Well, when I had Ashcroft on, so I interviewed Jay Ashcroft, and I asked him, I said, when you're looking at what happened in Michigan and Pennsylvania back in 2020, I said, it looks to me like you said, you're learning in real time who's voting, who's not voting. So you have this window. Yeah. And so I said, and then all of a sudden these fans come into Michigan and he goes, "Oh, you mean to backfill the vote?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, kind of like what you're saying. So the computer's telling you how many votes you need.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ready-made votes there.
Mm-hmm.
You come in, you start jamming them through the computer to get to the number that you need and where we go. And he acknowledged it. I mean, I don't think it was happening in Missouri, but he acknowledged that it was, that it happened and it was possible. That was what I was trying to get at. I'm like, if it's possible, then you would think we'd want to stop it immediately.
Jay acknowledged that they're backfilling the ballots. That's the point.
And he's the one that said it. He said, He goes, "Oh, you mean backfilling the ballots?"
He understands perfectly well. And what did Shane Schuller say? "Yeah, we know we have tens of thousands of ballots being stuffed in our elections."
Yeah.
And Eric Schmidt the next day agreed. So, for somebody who wants proof, that's them telling you they know.
It's disturbing.
So the solution isn't another law, because I already showed you the distribution of your house. They're not going to want to fix it. They're not going to want to have the fix is local. We have local people get out to vote, and kind of like in Korea where we have hundreds of thousands of people protesting right now. We need to wake people up and get them to turn out and take back control of our elections. I'm not proposing any violence or anything. I'm just saying we got to stand for our constitutional rights.
Right.
One of my favorite examples of that is in New Mexico a few years ago. Governor Grisham said, "Oh yeah, we had a school shooting, so we're going to take away everybody's right to carry arms for a few weeks while we deal with this issue." And one of the sheriffs stood up and said, "I'm not going to enforce that in my county because it's not constitutional." And about 70 other sheriffs stood up and said the same thing. And that's great. I love it that the sheriff stood up and defended the constitutional rights. But a week later, and I was there, 50 guys put their guns on and stood on the Capitol steps and said to the governor, "Here we are, governor, come and take them." The people nullified the unconstitutional order. The people in Missouri need to nullify an unconstitutional election system, a system that allows people to cheat, a system where there is cheating going on, and we can do it 10 times cheaper and restore trust in our elections. And that we can do it all in one fell swoop. We need to do that.
I think that's a conclusion right there. That's the final
That's
statement.
right.
Of the night.
That-
And if you
that's-
could clip that for me, I'd like to get that for my show because that's perfect.
Isaiah? I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
have to see.
no doubt. Yeah, if you send that to us, we'll clip it.
Okay. All
And
right.
then you
So
know, tomorrow.
Yep, tomorrow, Franklin County. That's that.
I'm so glad that we did this in interview format. You know, when you and Mike were talking about me giving a presentation.
Yeah.
This is much more fun.
Okay. Well, when we have a lot more comments on the thread, and there's a couple of them I'd like to, so maybe we'll go later
Okay.
after without the group. We can go through.
I don't have to leave now. I'm just sitting here in a hotel room. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
Well, Mike, can you see these ones that are on for Act for Missouri? Michael Burton is clearly very
Involved.
involved. Thank you, Rob. I
Good for
needed
him.
a word there.
Absolutely.
He's just really
I like him
writing a
already.
lot of stuff here.
And he's persistent.
He's very persistent.
He wants proof, I think.
Yeah. And I know we mentioned some fake IDs and ballots being seized outside of Detroit, Michigan.
We gave 550 cases to Jay Ashcroft.
But he
Which-
couldn't find any
What?
news stories about the 1 million fake IDs and ballots being seized
Oh, I
outside.
put that up.
Yeah, we put that up.
I thought Jim did. Yeah, I thought Jim put.
But
the
then I
link in.
found it. Remember when I was showing you the AWeb thing, because it was right next to my AWeb slide. You want me to put
Yes.
it up again?
Sure. Yeah, I guess so. He
Yeah,
asked.
I've got it right here.
All
I'll
right.
share it.
Said, can Dr. Frank address the comments by Justin Grimmer, a political science professor at Stanford University, who said
I'd love
this
to.
about Dr. Frank? Quote, luckily, the theory is so crazy that I think only the people who really want to believe or really, really want to see some conspiracy in the world would be persuaded. But nevertheless, I think there's a real danger there, end quote.
Does he think there's a danger in the elections or a danger in me? There's a dangling modifier there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Justin Grimmer, a political science
I
professor
know who he is.
at Stanford University.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with him. I've had public debates with him. 3.5-hour public debates in Oregon.
Yeah, so he's not a fan, clearly.
No, in fact, when CNN did a hit piece on me, they did my opinion and then his back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So I will address that. But you wanted me to show the link, right?
Yeah, the link to the million
The
fake
article.
IDs and ballots that
Okay,
that
so
it's got
I'm
Pat
putting
Patel.
that up right now. So
Okay.
okay, I just put it up.
So Michael, if you're still on, here's your link for that.
Okay, so I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3.
There
And
it
I'll take
is.
Okay, and it's in the comments too, because Jim Kozlowski
Yep,
posted
the
it.
links are in the link in the comments.
Okay, and then now the Justin Grimmer thing.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about Justin Grimmer. So I had never heard of Justin Grimmer. He's a political science professor at Stanford. He has never run an election before. He hasn't gone around the country talking to secretaries of states and AGs like that. He's just kind of a theoretical guy in his office in Stanford. That's who he is. However, every time my opposition wants to come after me, they always bring him out. So when CNN had me on TV, they brought him as the counterpoint. And when I was testifying in Washington County, Oregon, they brought him out. So I was actually sitting in the witness stand, and the prosecuting attorney challenged my ability to testify. They said, Dr. Frank's not qualified to talk about elections. And so they had a little mini trial within the larger trial to whether I was qualified.
Okay.
And so for the mini trial, guess who they brought up on the Zoom call? Justin Grimmer.
Okay.
And we had a 30-minute back and forth between the attorneys. And Justin Grimmer concluded, yes, Dr. Frank's very qualified to talk about science. I mean, after all, I have a Nobel Prize nomination in chemistry and 60 scientific peer-reviewed publications and cover articles on the leading journals in the world, right? So, okay. So he conceded, yes, Dr. Frank's qualified to talk about science. He's qualified to talk about statistics. Ironically, I'm the one who teaches the political science students their statistics. Okay, but anyway, he's qualified to talk about, but he's not qualified to talk about elections because he doesn't have a degree in poli-sci. That's what he said.
So this is really more like an academic argument about what your degree is in.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And so he makes that, and I said, yeah, but I got to admit, I was a little pissed off because I was sitting there in the witness stand and they were challenging my credibility, and I have 10 times more credibility than this guy has. So I was a little peeved. I'm sorry. And I leaned over in the microphone and I said, 1 + 1 is 2, both in science and political science.
There you go.
and the judge slams the gavel, and then get me to shut up. And then when it was finally my turn to testify again, I said, Abe Lincoln told the story about a dog. He said that, how many legs does a dog have if you call his tail a leg? The answer is 4. Calling his tail a leg doesn't make it a leg.
Right.
And the judge is slamming the gavel. She's going to hold me in contempt. So I stopped, but I was a little peeved off. Okay.
Sure.
Because I have personally analyzed the elections of every state in this country, most of them down to the very address level, like I just showed you. Okay. And I have spoken to 24 secretaries of states, not just like, let's take a picture together. Like I'm talking hours on end, 3 days with Paxton in Texas, studying their elections with them, coaching on them on how to make them more secure. And 24 AGs, including the AG here in Missouri. I spent a whole afternoon with him, okay, where I'm showing him his own data. And you've heard about my stories about talking to the clerks. In other words, I know elections in America. Okay, I don't know if there's anybody who knows them better than me. I mean, there might be people that know them as well, but I don't know many people. So for Grimmer to say, "Oh yeah, Dr. Frank doesn't know what he's talking about," I think that's kind of not there. Now, if he's going to say, when I was in a 3.5-hour debate with him in Coos County, Oregon, what happened is the county commissioners called me in for debate, and they called him in, and we had a 3.5-hour debate. I gave a half-an-hour presentation. He gave a half-an-hour presentation. And then for 2.5 hours, the commissioners would ask us questions and people in the audience would ask us questions. And it's all online. You can watch this. And there were some really choice moments. So, for example, you notice I just showed you the graphs where I could predict every county.
Mm-hmm.
He got up and gave an academic argument why that's impossible. And so I stood up and said, okay, I understand the statistics you're saying, but here it is. I'm doing it. He says, but it's not possible because of blah, 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 blah. And he gave all these technical reasons. And I said, you can say it's impossible, but here it is.
Yeah.
The point is, it's here. And isn't that making my point? It can't be real, but it's there. So that tells you something's wrong. Something's wrong.
Right.
And then it was amazing because the guy then said, well, the machines aren't connected to the internet. That's not true. And it just so happens that we did a penetration test on that county and showed that, nope, they're on. But anyway, I like to say, this is biased because it's me saying it, I like to say I wiped the floor with the guy, but that's what most people say. But, that's Justin Grimmer for you.
Okay.
Everything I've shown you tonight, I showed you my evidence for, or told you the story that I have witnesses. Jim Kozlowski's here on the call. He sat with me when I talked to the clerks, and Kelly sat with me. So everything I've told you is verifiable. So if he says it's a conspiracy theory, I'm sorry. Everything I told you was fact, right? I mean, what did I say that wasn't a fact?
Good question. Okay, so Jim, speaking of Jim, he's brought up, he said, Rob, you might want to review what happened in Franklin last December. So
This was on the tabulators when we were in that tabulator demonstration in Franklin County. And basically what they were trying to prove was that the election law, according to our people, is that the machines must determine voter intent. So the tabulator is if you put a dot in the middle of the circle, you circle the circle, or you write, hey, I want this one right here. I didn't mean to fill in the right one. This is the one I want.
It has to be able to interpret that.
It has to be able to interpret that. And the idea was that that would be pulled aside and then be counted by hand. But it didn't. It's
called adjudication.
Yeah, it went straight through. It didn't go through an adjudication process. So, the people that were with me that night are saying, look, this shit proves that the tabulator is, regardless of whether you think it's, 1/10 of 1% of the people that might screw this up because they're not, they
Right.
can't read the instructions. It still says by law that you have to have they have to determine voter intent, and they can't do it. The technology is not there for it to work, as they were telling me. So that's what that was about.
And then there's that gal I keep forgetting. Allie she's
Yeah,
saying
Allie.
that the machines aren't certified properly. So there's lots of problems with machines. I think we're in a situation where we all have evidence. Allie has evidence. I have evidence. Lots of people have evidence. Linda Rance has evidence. We've brought lots of that evidence forward. We're not going to win with the evidence. We're going to win when the people realize this is a problem and the people stand up and say, we're not going to put up with it anymore.
100% agree. That's what we talk about every day on the show. I said, you're not going to get it through normal means. You're going to get it through movement or pressure.
Yep. That's what we're hoping for in Korea, which is why, hundreds of thousands of those people are demonstrating right now. I mean, that's what they want. It's not going to happen with an argument. Yeah.
And they took the guns away from them, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's why they can take their government away from them.
Yeah. That's right.
Before we leave, maybe we could play that video of the letter to America.
Oh, yeah. Especially if Rob hasn't seen that. Oh man,
Jim's right about that. He's posting there. He's saying that was a unison tabulator, which it was in Franklin County, and the actual error rate was 70%. The machine gave no indication there were reading errors, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's where you're going to be tomorrow night.
Yeah, you're going to be at that same place.
We got to give kudos to their county clerk, because he did bring the machines out, knowing that that was what was going to happen, that we were going to look at that.
Yeah, he's a good one. I think he wants clean elections. He's. Yeah,
so let's empower him.
Yeah, I think he would be on the same page with you, Dr. Frank. I think he wants things to be proper.
But he's afraid. Maybe afraid is not the right way to say it. He's going to be reluctant to stand on his own. We need the people to stand up, and then he'll be willing to get involved. Let me I'm queuing up that letter now. And are you ready to share the screen? I got to share my screen again, don't I? Sorry. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Share screen. Yeah, this is a very moving thing. What happened was I was in the car, and in Korea, we were in the limousine going from location to location, and one of my hosts, he's one of the most popular podcasters there in Korea. He said, Dr. Frank, I want to send America a letter. I said, okay. I got a piece of paper and I getting ready to write it down. And he started speaking. And I said, stop right there. And I got my camera out, my phone, and I held it up and I recorded him for 3 minutes dictating this letter. So you can hear it. I'm going to play it for you now. Yeah, start. Come on. Here we go.
I have a letter to America. Dear America.
Audio's hard.
Oh, the audio's hard?
Yeah, audio's hard. Yeah, you're going to turn that up.
Okay, hang on. See if I can get
it. Let's start it over.
Yeah, hang on. Let's see. I got to turn up the volume here. Function. I've got my volume up all the way.
That might be the best you can do then.
Oh, okay. Get close, people.
In my microphone, it's coming through loud and clear, right?
I can turn it up on mine to hear it, but you do have to turn it up.
Okay, so turn up your volume, folks. And here we go.
I have a letter to America. Dear America. I'm a husband and father of 3. Well, 140 years ago, you came to our land and you taught us the Bible. So now I'm saved. Thank you. Thank you, America. In 1950 to 1953, you came to our land again. You fought for us. You protected us. Almost 36,000 American soldiers died, and more than 100,000 1,000 American soldiers got injured. You came to our land to protect us. You bled and died for us. You bled and died instead of us. Thank you. So I'm alive. And still, you are in our land. You're still protecting us. Thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't thank you enough. My brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers in America, in Christ, thank you and love you. From now, we're not going to just ask for help. We want to fight for you now. America is the strongest country, but America is fighting a lonely fight. You have your family, brothers, and sisters here. From now on, we want to fight for you. America has to be stronger and wealthier. We want to make America stronger and wealthier and greater to protect people, protect the world, to protect freedom of faith. And thank you. So please help. It could be your words, military, finance. Give me some weapons so we can fight for you. Fight for freedom. Fight for freedom of faith. Thank you. Love you, America.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sentiment there is, we rescued them from communism once before, and they realize they've lost their country. They just lost their National Assembly, which is like our Congress, to communism. And they're going to vote on a new constitution next week, and they're going to be a communist country. And so what the North couldn't accomplish, what CCP and North couldn't accomplish with bullets, they've now accomplished with ballots. And so they're desperate for our help, but they're not asking like damsel in distress. They're saying, we got AWEB here, and AWEB is exporting election fraud to your country, and it's exporting it all around the world. This is a worldwide fight. We want to join with you and fight against this. So I think that's a good call to arms for us too, here in America. It's ironic that graph I showed earlier shows the AWEB traffic comes straight into Missouri. I think that's pretty interesting. Interesting coincidence. So, but it's all over the world. So Missourians need to wake up, they need to engage, and we need to take back local control of our elections. And you know what? We need to link elbows with our South Korean friends and fight with them as well. It's a worldwide battle. We're the beacon of liberty for the world.
Wow. How's that, Rob?
I want that too. Can I get that clip?
I want that clip too.
Come on, Michael. That was good.
We're going to give you the whole thing, Rob, so you can put it up on your social media sites as well.
I think we can all safely say we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
The listeners that are out there, we're sharing and talking to hopefully inspire, motivate.
Yes.
For other people to get engaged. Wake up, people.
It reminds you of the gravity and the responsibility of American citizens, though.
Right. I don't think so. We forget how people outside our country look at us.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that touched me, to think that they look at us as that significant. We're just going along in our day-to-day stuff in our country.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're more than just us.
Snap out of it.
Yeah. That's my favorite. Play that again. That's mine. Sometimes when I call Mike, that's what I yell. I love this clip.
Amy's been asking me to get this forever.
Yeah, I've been begging.
I lost that clip and I want it back.
Hit it again.
It's coming.
All right. I love this one.
Here we go.
Wake up, people. Snap out of
That's Roseanne Barr.
Yeah, it is. And I
I
just
had
love
to
that part
for
of
the
the
longest
clip.
time, and then I flipped over my my machine and I lost the clip and I couldn't go back and find it.
I mean, that's
funny.
just how I feel like most of the day, right? So I'm always like, man, Mike, I'm like, wow, these people wake up, snap out of it. And I know you feel the same way. I mean, we've had this discussion in the cars we've traveled around. You know, sometimes you just feel like you're repeating, you're saying the same thing. And I think we can easily say people know something's wrong. There is a sense that something is not right.
Mhm.
But it gets a little muddy. Like, what exactly is that? And what do we do? And, you know, and we're all out here trying to do our piece and our part.
By the way, for my part,
journey.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with you and Mike, Amy. As I travel the country, I get to meet the best patriots, and it's, you know, I work hard, but I get to hang out with the best people. It's pretty cool. And you guys are a special couple of people. I'm really proud to know you.
Amen.
Thank you. Some mutual, for sure. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're trying. I mean, we're just every day. I mean, it's a new adventure between us and, you know, Rob and Shield Maidens that are a big part of this too. I mean, we've just been fighting since that state convention, and, you know, some of the groups were still here. And I think we needed a little bit of maybe a shot in the arm to be like, what are we doing? Everybody was so upset when the election was what they felt stolen, but we really haven't done much. Like, we kind of, the Trump, what do you call it? The Trump slump.
Trump slump, yeah.
You know,
I stole that from Chris Ann Hall, the constitutional scholar in Florida. She's one of my heroes.
Yeah,
and
she's incredible.
She says we all need to wake up and do our sovereign duty.
Right, and yeah, go into that a little further because I think that's really part of it. Yeah, it's up. We're the government.
The way she says it, she says we're the kings. We were tired of having kings, so we wrote a constitution where we're the sovereigns. So we have to do our sovereign duty.
Right.
When you're the king, you have a duty to do your role. You know, if the king doesn't do his role in a kingdom, the kingdom goes down the toilet. Well, guess what? We're the kings, so we got to do our sovereign duty. She wrote a book called Sovereign Duty. It's a brilliant book. I've had to learn all that stuff because I came out of the lab, right? I'm a physicist. So,
right. We
have too. That's what,
yeah.
You know, and now we're trying. I mean, the ultimate answer is we have to get people to learn that citizenship isn't just showing up to vote every couple of years. There's a duty with that, and that's what we've lost. We don't teach it anymore, and people don't even know that they should be doing that. If we're going to be self-governed, we have to be the self-governed means we have to be involved.
If we're self-governing, we got to be governing.
Yep.
Right. True. All right. Well, are there any other questions or comments that you can see, Mike? Or are we?
I'm not seeing anything other than I got a couple here. I'd like to just put up. Let me find.
We didn't mean to skip anybody's question. We don't.
I think there's some questions that Amy was finding that I don't see where I can pull them up.
Let me go back. I know
they're not on the list, but I'm seeing them on the other. So for some reason they weren't getting pulled across.
For people who say they want proof more than what I've already been given, I can give them more proof. But I would say to them also, it's not our job to prove that the elections are fraudulent. It's their job to prove that the elections are secure.
Right.
And when you go and you talk to a clerk and they say, we don't know if they're a citizen or not, it's their job to secure the election. But if you talk to a clerk, they'll say, no, it's not our job. It's the state's job. It's the policy. So when we complain, I wouldn't mind if they used electronics. I wouldn't mind if it was centrally controlled, if everything was auditable and everything was transparent and somebody was taking responsibility for it. But right now, it's out in the cloud. Nobody knows what's going on. When you ask questions, they tell you to get lost. That's not okay.
And let's bring in a little bit the Secretary of State, because we had a Secretary of State, Denny Hoskins, who ran on a platform of
Denny. Yeah,
Denny. You know, Rob's played the clip several times. that's still a very hot topic about what is he going to do and how is he going to do it.
I'm so glad you brought him up. Yes.
Yeah, we haven't really addressed, because there's a feeling that he isn't doing enough. He isn't doing it fast enough. He's not keeping his word. Some people say he needs more time. So it's up for discussion. You know?
I think that's a great point. It goes back to our other point too. He actually, in fact, I think I was in the car with you two a year ago, and you were taking me to the airport, and Denny called me on the phone,
trying to get you guys connected, because I wanted him to, at least he was open to talking to you, and I wanted to start the conversation.
This is a year ago, so and I don't remember this perfectly, but I can paraphrase the conversation. He was basically saying, thanks for getting the people worked up and voting for me. Thanks for helping with that. You know, the people got all worked up and they voted. He says they put me in office, but what happened to him? His phrase was, where did everybody go? And what do you mean? He says, well, I'm up here all alone. Everybody's abandoned me and everybody expects me to fix it. But I'm not the legislature. I'm the Secretary of State. I have to implement the law. It's true that I have discretion, but I don't write the law. The legislature writes the law. The people have to stay engaged, and they have to keep the pressure on so that we can fix the system. So he's feeling a little frustrated because he feels like he's been abandoned by the people. I bet you Trump feels like that too. You know, we elected Trump, and everybody just expects him to fix it. Same kind of thing. So it's we, the people, have to start being the government.
And you mentioned
I like him. He's one of the best in the country. I vouch for that personally.
Yeah, you've mentioned that of all of the Secretary of State, you felt that there were only 3 that you.
There are only 3 good ones. We're only 2, but we just elected one in Nebraska, Scott Peterson, and he's going to be great. And by the way, he's replacing one of the stupidest Secretary of States in the country. I always talk about. I say it in public. I say this guy's dumb as a walnut. I say that in public. I've been quoted all over Nebraska saying that.
They probably like that. All right, looks like you see Reb's question. Are there truly any more laws that could be passed? It seems like the problem doesn't lie within needing more laws, but falls at a different level, such as with following the current laws, dissolving the county current clerks association, and abolishing electronic voting, more people involved in cleaning up voter rolls, et cetera. Yeah, I think we've kind of said that. We don't need more laws.
Yeah, it's sort of like saying, let's pass another gun law because that'll stop, crime.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why the Department of Justice is suing so many states and also the Judicial Watch is suing so many states is because the states aren't following the laws we have already. When I was showing you the voter rolls, they're supposed to be removing people and they're not. So they're already not following. So someone might say, well, let's don't get rid of the machines. Let's just fix the software. And what I've learned is that when you go that avenue, people say, well, let's just buy a new system that is compliant. But then we end up in the same situation.
We're in the same site. Yeah, we're in the same.
So I don't think legislation or a better system is the right approach. I think local control, local eyes, that's the right approach. Like I said, I don't care if you have a completely electronic system, as long as everything is transparent, everything is monitorable, everything is auditable, and any person can understand it. If it's so complicated, people can't understand it. That's our problem. Yeah.
Oh, hey, this is the best Saturday night I've had in a while.
You need to get a life. That person needs to get a life.
Well,
but thank you very much.
We can help you have a good Saturday night. This is one where I've had to think a lot. I still have to look at those graphs, the data to look at that. I still have to, my eyes, I'm getting more familiar, but
yeah,
it's a little bit tricky and can be a little bit tedious. But I think that getting the neighborhoods and looking at your neighbors, if anything, you find out who your neighbors are.
As I've been doing this from the beginning, Mr. Lindell made that movie about me, and it kind of made me famous, and tens of millions of people knew who I was. But I was pretty technical in that movie, and as I was going around the country teaching people, I could tell their eyes were
just like
exactly. So I've just been kind of dumbing it down over the years, and dumbing it down is insulting. I don't mean it to be that way, but making it more and more accessible.
Yes, yeah.
And then I've learned the technique that really works is you just show people their own neighborhoods because that's what they know.
Yeah, it's close to their mind and their life. Yeah, I see that. And
it works very good. It took me a while to get to that point because I like to make a good argument.
Isn't that funny? Right. That's so funny as we all journey on. All right. Well, I don't know. Mike, do you have any? We're getting lots of thanks, so people might be feeling like it's time to wrap up. You got any other questions that you can see, Mike? I don't know.
I think we're pretty good. I kind of skimmed over the questions. So it looks like we got them, I think.
Got him. Okay. Yeah. Because we didn't want
And I didn't want to be insulting to that other guy. He obviously, has his opinion, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. I tell people I disagree with my wife all the time. We've been married 44 years and we still make babies. So, it's okay to disagree, and let's just have a vigorous discussion and dig to the bottom of it.
That's what Rob's saying all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, can we just not get the two opposing sides of the table? Let's have a debate. He says debate, but we've kind of tried to say it's conversation.
Because we can disagree. That's fine.
Yeah, but boy, that's hard. It's been very hard to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody wants to fight.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're the show me state for real. I mean, we're showing each other.
Show me bow tie. So show me.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Rob. We appreciate
you guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to Franklin. So I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. We're going to drive to Franklin.
We're going to take you to Franklin. Thank everybody for watching tonight. It looks like everybody, we had steady numbers all night. So I'm imagining people, once they tuned in, got riveted to what was going on.
They stuck around. Awesome.
Well, and you'll have a lot of people watch later. That's why I said, if you can send it to me, I'll try to repost it as well.
Yeah, we will send it to you guys, Rob. And thank you, guys. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Dr. Frank.
Pleasure being with you guys.
Everybody, if you don't know, Dr. Frank doesn't charge for these trips, but we'd like to try to make him whole as much as we can before he leaves. So we've set up a link, and I'll put it in the chats and our deals where you can maybe give to help alleviate some of his travel expenses before he heads off to his next adventure.
We're not sure where he's going. He might be going to LA. You got some.
Yeah, I might be going to LA. I've got like half a dozen texts on my phone just this night.
You probably do. You're gonna have to catch up
from people that are saying, "Please come out and help." So we'll see. I don't know for sure, but my wife thanks you for the donations.
All right, we'll put that link up there.
Thank you,
Rob.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. We'll see Rob on Monday.
Yep. See you guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye, everybody.